Hi, welcome to our live planets and transits talk. Stephanie and I are gonna wait a few minutes to get the live out and for you guys to come join us, and we'll get started shortly. Hi, Catherine.
Hi. Whoops.
I don't see the name for the other.
Hi.
Stephanie will probably mute everyone as soon as she's back. I'm excited to go over the planets and transit. We're gonna do a short go over the transits as well in human design after. Stephanie's going to do the astrological aspects for them.
I'll turn my video off and I'll be right back. I'm
Totally.
listening.
Totally. And Stephanie, if you're able to hear me, when you get a chance, would you put the slide settings up and the settings for the speaker, but to not be the picture, but the slides? We're just going to wait for a few more people and for Stephanie to be able to put the post out on Facebook for other people to join us. We'll probably also share this to our YouTube group for Human Design, our YouTube's channel for Human Design and Gene Keys. Stephanie has that going for you all if you want to watch this later somewhere else besides Facebook. We're going to be doing questions at the end, what you're wanting to study and go over. So if you want to write down your question or hold on to it, if you want to raise your hand during the presentation, if you have any questions, we'll address those right at the end in the order they came in. If we're able to do that, figure out how to do that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we are ready.
Awesome. Were you able to hear my request to put the slides up then?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Stand sure you heard it. Something that I, as a manifester, to everyone in the group watching, I still don't, for some reason, I don't register that the outer world has heard me sometimes. It's actually one of the chats I'm going to do soon, or one of the events. Let's talk about manifestors, projectors, and each type.
See here. If I can actually get to it. Yay, I found my desktop.
A lot of me.
Yeah, let me minimize this. There it goes. You're not there yet.
No, okay.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
All right, so today we're going to be going over the planets as there's a few differences between the planets in astrology and the planets in human design. A lot of them are the same, but there are a little minute differences, and we're going to go into those. And again, this is just the intro to the planets. We are going to be going more in depth. We're going to have like a little series on the planets, and we're going to actually go through the signs, each sign, and the gates in those signs. So right now, we're just basically doing general information on these planets. Okay. So basically, when you pull up your chart for human design, there are two columns for the design and the personality, and then you see all these planets listed in those columns. So these are all the symbols for the planets. So we've got the sun, it's got this circle and it's got a dot inside of it. The earth is a circle with like a cross. And of course, the moon is the moon. North node looks like an upside down horseshoe. And then the south node is the reverse. And Mercury looks like he's got like a little, it's like a person with horns. This is the best way I can describe that one. Venus, again, you've got like a little person. And Mars, he's got this circle with an arrow. And Jupiter looks like this fancy looking four. So that is Jupiter. Saturn is like an H with a cross at the top. And Uranus, I think of it like this little satellite in orbit. It's the way I always remember Uranus. Neptune, I think of basically,
Neptune's trident.
yeah, the trident. So yeah. And then Pluto, he looks like he's throwing his hands up saying, I'm done with this. So that's the easy way to remember Pluto. And Chiron looks like this little key. You know, if you kind of have the K as the little pings on the key. Lilith is a moon with an upside down cross. So very easy to remember that one because she can be a real pain in our lives as she exposes a lot of our fears. So we're going to go on with the sun. The sun formed more than 4.5 billion years ago when a cloud of dust and gas called a nebula collapsed under its own gravity. As it did, the cloud spun and flattened into a disk, with our sun forming at the center. The disk outskirts later accredited into our solar system, including Earth and the outer planets, and that's according to National Geographic. Now, astrology and human design view the sun in the same way. The sun is the personality, expression, or life force. It represents our core energy. It is astrologically ruled by the fifth house and the sign of Leo. And Christina,
And our
if you want to
human,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, totally. I'll be doing the human design parts of these slides. In our human design chart, our personality sun is the yang archetype of the father. Also how we express our light in the world. Our design sun represents genetic themes we have inherited from our parents. And human design, one of the aspects, the sun represents the father and the earth represents the mother. So the sun earth configuration in your human design chart, as Stephanie mentioned, the columns with the planetary aspects in your human design chart, the top two are the sun earth. There's the red side that is your design side and the black side, which is your personality side. And they all have the sun, earth, and the planets all the way down. Those four aspects, and we'll go over the earth here in just a minute. The sun is your mother, sorry, the sun is your father and the earth is your mother. And those four activations in your human design chart, when you look at your mandala wheel, can be found, which we'll see this in a minute on another slide after we go over these, are your cross, your purpose.
Okay. Try this again. Okay, so now we're going to go into the earth, and a lot of astrologers, so this can range between different astrologers and how they view the earth. Some astrologers view the earth as, in our natal charts, located in the center, as it is our perception of our standpoint. So we are on planet Earth, and we have our ascendant, and then we have our seventh house, on each side of us. Think of the person standing on the horizon line, basically, and that is the self, or who we are when we bring together the sum of all of our planetary aspects. The earth is grounding and it is balance. It is the backbone of our stability.
In human design, the sun and earth operate together. It is the yin balance of the mother when they operate together. We find conscious balance when we integrate personality correctly in our life, unconsciously when we come to grips with the world of form. The earth, your sun and your earth in your human design chart, different from astrology. I can't say it's different, actually. I don't know astrology well enough to know that the earth is the grounding force. So if you have, for example, the 43 in your sun and the 23 in your earth, this is actually a common cross configuration. The 43 will be what you shine out to the world, how you nurture the world, how you are seen and what you are seen for. And the 23 would be what grounds that in, how you are able to internalize and support your externalization of that light of your 43 in the sun. That's what the earth will be doing. In human design, it's different than it's the location you're basically born at in relation to earth. The neutrino programming from the stars is part of how we are programmed, which I won't go much into, but the sun is responsible for 70% of the neutrino stream that we receive, both in our charts, our imprints, and our daily life transit-wise. And the earth is responsible as well as the planets will activate Jupiter. I believe Jupiter is the one that I might be getting that wrong. There's another planet, Neptune. Shelley, if you would chime in for just a moment, that is responsible for 4% of our neutrino stream.
I am not sure on that number, so you're ahead on me.
Okay, do you know which planet it was that is responsible for more than just the stellar background field?
As far as I know, the sun carries upwards of 70% of our overall energy in our life, and particularly for the 4-1 profiles. So that's the information I have for now on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, some astrologers also take where your sun's at and then go to the direct opposite sign and say that's your earth. So yeah, that's a little bit that's the difference between the way astrologers view the earth.
And in human design, it is actually opposing. So as part of your cross in the mandala wheel, which makes sense to astrologers doing that, if the 43 in the mandala wheel is directly opposing the 23, and anywhere you have your sun earth, your design sun earth will be one leg of your cross for your purpose, and your personality black sun earth will be the other leg. So your sun earth will be opposing, and your sun and earth will be opposing for your cross for your purpose.
Right.
So now we're going to go into the North Node. In astrology, the North Node is the direction that we are aiming to achieve this lifetime. Many of our life's lessons will be found in the North Node. Our purpose in life has a hint within our North Node. So if we're wondering, like, what is our purpose? What are we here to do? You always want to look at that North Node. So that's the major difference. I guess you could say with one thing that I learned with when human design, which actually really caught me off guard, was basically, you move from your North Node to your South Node during your Uranus opposition. And that was like
South Node to North Node.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, I'll let you go ahead and go into the human design aspects of that, Christina.
Okay. So Stephanie was saying we go from our South Node to our North Node phase is different in human design. Our North Node in human design is our future direction and environment. There's something called primary health system I won't get into at all here, other than to say that your nodes are part of your environment, that it's a very big part of your primary health system. The sun, earth, and your nodes are what show you what your diet is, what your environment is, what your view is, and what your motivation is, not in that order. On the personality side of the nodes are not who you are, but instead frame what your personality thinks of the world and itself. On the design side, it frames your relationship to the environment and the people in it. One major difference between astrology and human design is that in human design, the node is the maturing stage of experiencing life and shifts from the South Node at our Uranus opposition around age 38 to 43. Movement into the North Node signals a process of letting go of what no longer serves us and retaining what does. And your human design chart, your nodes are going to be in gate activations, and your South Node is what you fill up with. You breathe it in, and it's part of your storyline, as in relation to the character you play in the world is set in one way, and then your storyline, the plot line, is set by your design and personality nodes. And as you have reached your full inhale on your South Node, you start to exhale your north node. So it is absolutely a direction, and it is absolutely part of your direction. As and if you haven't yet reached your Uranus opposition, I have not. You're still accumulating your inhale and your information in regards to those activations in your human design chart. Let's go on to the south node.
In astrology, the south node is our comfort zone, what we are familiar with, and habits and talents that we carry over from past incarnations. It's like a lot of people with very dominant south nodes, like any kind of planet that's conjunct the south node. Like I have my sun, it's actually on my south node. And, for me, when it comes to like for me to get out of my comfort zone is extremely difficult. And I'm like just now coming into my Uranus opposition. It will be exact conjunct next year. So I'm dealing a lot with my nodal energies, and it's really, it's a little intense. Yeah, as far as, human design goes, as Christina was saying, it's where we inhale. I did a lot of inhaling. I'll let Christina explain a little bit more on human design aspects of the South Node.
Well, you not only did a lot of inhaling, Stephanie, you did a lot of inhaling and expressing through your sun what that inhale was, probably in up until what's coming up your Uranus opposition. And now you're going to have a totally different new way of interacting with the world. And your sun, you may be like, what is this?
Yeah.
The South Node in human design is our developing stage of experience in life. It is the foundation for that exhale. This is our immaturity until we arrive at our Uranus opposition. The Uranus opposition in human design is my body's saying not to go into that. Never mind.
We can save that until we get more
I was
in
going to
depth.
talk about Saturn's return, Chiron's return, and Uranus opposition and what they were, which is not for now. So the South Node itself is when you that activation can be very, very, very powerful. There, if you're a sixth line being, if in your profile you have a sixth line, it is going to really flavor your life up until your Saturn's return. The sixth lines have a 3-part karmic process, which if you have questions, you can ask me about. But the South Node for everyone is going to lay that foundation for what you need to learn and then let go of. Not only let go of, but use it to empower as well. There'll be aspects that happened in those 38, 40 to 42 years of your life that you realize as you switch into your North Node were relevant and useful, and you need to now teach or act or be them in a different way, in a different energy, and that you don't just get rid of them, but you're able to evaluate and let go what parts of your South Node do not serve you in your future once you hit the North Node phase. One of the major differences between astrology and human design is that in human design, the node is the mature stage of experiencing life and shifts from the South Node at our Uranus opposition. Movement into the North Node signals a process of letting go or what no longer serves us and retaining what does. Absolutely. It can be very, very uncomfortable. I'm not even to my Uranus opposition, and my nodes. It's difficult. I can feel it. It's sticky.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to get with you on more information on those nodes, and I definitely want to do a Chiron, the major transits in people's lives, like the Chiron return, Uranus opposition, Saturn return.
Explaining what they are. We can totally do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have
Six
to.
lines really need to hear about it.
I'm a 6 too, so yeah. Okay, and then we go on to the moon, and Earth cannot be seen in a natal chart, so the moon will be the one thing. Oh, sorry. The one bringing us closer to home. So as going from the standpoint of viewing the Earth as the center of our natal chart in astrology, you have to look to the moon to actually bring it in more information instead of just like the Earth is opposing our sun. The moon in astrology tends to describe your emotional life, feelings, your desires, and all the stuff going on below the surface that you might not be apparent, even to you. The moon is also the reflected light from the sun, It's basically our inner nature. So yeah, I'll let you talk about how the moon affects us with human design, Christina.
I would like to add to the astrological part. It was
Oh,
mentioned in Serious Joy recently that the moon is very much emotions, if I
yes.
remember correctly. And
Mhm.
the moon, if you think about the moon in relation to gravity and the earth, it's part of, as the nodes are our story, the moon is kind of part of our direction in relation to where it is in both your design and personality aspect. Again, only the personality side of the chart, only your personality is used for astrology. You do not use the red because it is from 88 solar degrees before birth. So your imprint, wherever your mom was at the time, 88 solar degrees is not the same as when you're born and you haven't been built all the way as a human yet in her womb. Um, in human design, the moon is the driving force. It's what propels us forward. It's our goals. The the moon, the pull of the moon is a force that is powerful, like the gravity around the earth.
Mhm.
It's pulling the water. It's pulling the
Mhm.
oceans. We have tides because of the moon. And if you think about the ocean as your not just emotional self in relation to the emotional center, but your body's emotional self, including all 9 of your center activations, the emotional self, the emotional body, very much so gets pulled by the moon like the tide. And you
Yeah,
may not even be consciously aware of that.
we're like 75% water, I believe is what it is. So yeah, if the moon's pulling tides and pulling the ocean, yeah, it's affecting us in a major way. And it's our entire bodies because we are water. So yeah.
And as you say that, there's an human design is a hole that you will never stop digging in. The codons in our genetic DNA correlate are there's you're able to see the genetic coding in relation to your human design chart in histidine, therenin, I think it's called. It'll show you all of that. So when you talk about the body being mostly water, all of you responds to the moon. It is a very large, powerful driving force for you genetically, mentally, emotionally, everywhere. The moon, um, it's always there and it's always willing to embody the message of our sun's energy. We just have to get out of our own way to allow that. Our minds can be, when I talk to mind in the human design sense, I talk to thoughts and what we think we are. Like, I think, therefore I am. We are not actually a product of our thoughts. And our direction, while it's influenced by our thoughts and being aware of our thoughts is absolutely key, detachment from them is actually something that is taught in human design for you to be able to let go into basically the unknown of who you are so that you can see who you are. And inside of your human design body graph, side tangent, inside of your human design body graph, the personality aspect, the black, is conscious for you. If you're seeing through the lens of, this is why astrology is just, it makes sense. You can't, as they say, you can't make this shift up. You can't, because it's absolute and it's conscious for you, your those activations. Black, the red side, your design activations are unconscious. And so if you happen to have a channel in your human design chart where 2 gates make up a channel, they meet in the middle, and 2 centers are lit up. If one or both of those aspects are red in your design, you don't have conscious access to that. And you might not even be aware that of your thoughts around that, of your energies, of your feeling. And the moon is always going to drive you towards, in human design, both your design and personality, aspects you don't know and aspects you can kind of be aware of. And the further you go down the road, the more aware you become in hindsight, if you're able to let go, um, allow your thoughts to not just flow through you, but allow yourself to be aware and not attached to them. And if you're a master level at the stuff, consciously direct your thoughts towards where you need to go without forcing your thoughts into a box of like just positivity.
Okay. So next, we're going on to Mercury. Mercury in astrology shows us our way of communication, our knowledge and wisdom area. It is the ruler of the 3rd house of Gemini. Mercury is not just how we communicate, it's how we think. And everybody thinks a little bit differently. So Mercury in the natal chart has, which I can't wait to get into Mercury and when we go more in detail on planets. But in the natal chart shows how whether we can be thinking more for as the collective, if it's in the 11th house, and if it's in the first house, then you're very much a major communicator in your life. When we have, when we think of Mercury, we always think of the Geminis. They're the twins. You have this yin and yang balance, and a lot of it's going from how you receive information as well as how you are communicating it. So yeah, I'll let you talk about the human design aspects of Mercury.
Mercury in human design is very similar to astrology. However, the difference lies more in depth understanding, as Mercury in our personality gives you insight into what you need to communicate in this life. And Mercury in our design also has something to communicate, but often we do not know why we are telling something to someone when it expresses through our unconscious form. As I was talking about earlier, the design versus the personality, you have both activations in your human design chart. Again, only your personality is used for astrology. Your Mercury is where you communicate from, one of the aspects, as well as your throat center. If you have Mercury in your throat center, you have very powerful communication, especially when your throat center is defined.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting thing to note about the cosmology in human design, Mercury, the sun has its own makeup. It has two crystals, two consciousness crystals, and a center crystal. The neutrino stream that we're programmed with coming from the sun is actually filtered through Mercury. So as Mercury circles the sun, it's always, we're not getting the sun directly in human design programming wise. It actually goes through Mercury and then to us. And that is a huge part of communication, is that we want to express, mirroring that our sun wants to express through our Mercury. Around the time of the Great Depression, an aspect, one of the crystals of the sun, soul crystals you could call them, but crystals in human design, incarnated onto Earth. This is part of the cosmology. And at that time, we had a direct neutrino imprint. Anyone born during that time, I don't remember the exact dates, I can find them if you're super curious, does not have your imprint on your chart directly through Mercury. You have it directly through the sun. And I believe it's 2080 something, 2083, 2084, when this happens again. And it's going to be a huge event when that happens. The sun, in cosmology, it's taught that we're hoping it's a short, like the crystal incarnates into an insect, because if it lasts more, or an amoeba, because if it lasts more than a couple nanoseconds, we're going to start experience the fluctuation on Earth. But the sun and Mercury are very, very tied together. So your expression through your Mercury should usually highlight your activation in your sun. Mercury is also the planet of communication, as we're going over. And I would love for you to share in short, Stephanie, if you have something about in relation to the step system and where it might be in relation stepwise to your chart, not just house-wise, if you have that information handy.
Actually, I do not.
Yeah.
That when we get more into the details of each planet as we're going through the gates and the signs, I will bring into the slides as Christopher's step system to help show how it actually goes through the steps as well as the gates. And they all amazingly connect. It's really amazing to see that. But
we could do this class every day for 5 years. So
yeah.
probably not a lot of new information for you guys. So figuring out what we want to tackle first with you and what you guys want most. If there's something you want to focus on, please let us know as well at the end or in comments.
So Mercury is a step 5 in the astrology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Shelley.
Right. And then we're going to go on to Venus. Venus is the goddess of love. In astrology, she shows the areas of what we value and where we take pleasure in our life. Venus is ruled by both Taurus, which is the second house rulership, and Libra, which is our seventh house in our astrological charts.
In human design, Venus is viewed in a similar way as is viewed as values, our morals and natural law for how we deal with others. For your personality, Venus shows the right and wrong in your chart, your moral question and issues. We all have different morals in that regard. Societally, culturally, we have a set construct of morals, which would go into the background global consciousness program field, which is something different. However, our values in our chart are going to be unique to each of us, and that differentiation, as human design is called the science of differentiation. When you're able to see your child, your mother, your lover through the eyes just of their Venus, their own imprinted Venus, it gives you a new view as to why they have different motivations, why they have different moral values. It'll show you where you have your moral values and where they're separate from others, and that particular imprint and those values, they go on to imprint through your Jupiter, and then as the retribution takes place in Saturn. So we'll take a look at that. So if you're not in integrity here, you will start to, if you're not following your own personal morals compass, then you may have trouble with your law and protection, which we'll go in Jupiter into. And that law and protection that Jupiter brings with those activations, those will start to break down, and then you'll hit your Saturn, a wall. It's like hitting I used to say a mattress. So like a mattress is a wall. You're going to go straight at it and hit that mattress, and lovingly your body's going to be like, nope. God will not allow you to go through that. You may still try to, but it's in order to let you come back and then go, okay, well, I'm not following my Jupiters, and I'm not honoring my Venus, my values, and or other people's values. You look in relation to composites and how you interact with others energetically.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Shelley, before we move on?
Actually, I'm learning a lot from you.
Yeah, this is right here.
Christina's sharing things I've not heard before, so I'm excited.
Yeah, that's throwing me too.
I would love, Shelley. Thank you, guys. I would love if Shelley, you could tell us what step Venus is and what step each planet is, if you know, as we go forward.
Yeah, so Venus can be related to the step 6 frequency. So yeah, that open and receptive energy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we're going into Mars. Mars is known as the god of work. In astrology, it's our passion, our drive, the area where we stand up and defend with our warrior energy. Mars is ruled by Aries and the first house.
In human design, our Mars energy is immature energy. It's like the child that's it wants something, it'll react instead of be patient, passive until it gets rolling, then a force to be reckoned with. And usually you're wrong in that regard if you're not honoring your truth. It can get you in a lot of trouble. Once it gets started, Mars builds up and it can cause sudden outbursts. Mars over time can show where at a realization where you have gained wisdom about the correct use of energy. Mars is a great teacher and plays a significant role in our transformations. In human design, Mars is a place of learning in relation to immaturity. So wherever your Mars is something you're not going to master it this life. You're not exactly designed to master it. It's kind of like your weak spot in a good way, in that it's like a part of your inner child that needs to be heard and needs to be expressed, and it will come out. The realization I actually had where my Mars is in an activation that causes grandiosity in me, certainty in me. And when it comes up, I'm usually wrong. It's an aspect of intellect and logic. And for me, it's taken me many years and much work to get to the place where I can logically think about something and not just react and only exist emotionally. So Mars is a great teacher. It plays a huge role in our transformations. It is an aspect where we need to be gentle with ourselves, loving with ourselves, forgiving with ourselves, and then integrate and transmute that energy so we can grow from it.
Yeah, and it's
Shelley, do you have go on,
considered the
Stephanie?
immature energy, as according to the planets, as far as the outer planets formed first, as
Mhm.
far as in the whole how the solar system was created. And Mars is one of them that came in a little bit later. So the energy that's coming from Mars tends to be immature, and immature as far as it's not as, I guess, your wisdom and knowledge isn't as expansive as it is with your outer planets. So we're always learning from Mars and pulling that energy, as because that's going to be our spot where we have so much wisdom is going to be right in that Mars. So as we learn and we're trying to elevate our own frequencies, that Mars is going to shine through, and that's the area that your wisdom is going to come from. So you can have Mercury in whatever sign, but where your Mars is at is going to be where you're going to have hold your wisdom. And getting, well, yeah, I can get into Chiron because Chiron also deals with the other planets as well. And most people that know me know that's my little obsession.
We should do a
Yeah.
whole talk on Chiron.
Oh, that's a 3 hour show.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. So you want to look at the Mars, and that's where you're going to hold a lot of your wisdom. And especially with Venus, they kind of go hand in hand. So you're always pulling from your Mars to learn that your wisdom is coming in, and it's going to be integrated by Venus. And so when you have the two coming together, that split is where your Chiron's at. So, but yeah, Shelley, do you know the step number for Mars?
Yes, it's step 9. So it's activating, initiating, taking action, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so now we are going on to Jupiter. Jupiter in astrology has been interpreted in a few different ways. Some look at Jupiter as the planet of luck and fortune. I personally view Jupiter as the planet of higher knowledge, where we connect to our guides, and it shows the style in which we learn. Jupiter is the ruler of the ninth house and Sagittarius. And a lot of times, people are thinking, what's Jupiter have to do with higher knowledge? That's where we are basically downloading information, and it comes from our Jupiter. So if like Jupiter in the seventh house, you're going to be learning from your relationships. That's where all you're going to pull in your higher knowledge. It's where you're truly going to shine, as far as where you're going to download your information from your guides. It's going to be through relationships. But I'll let you talk about human design, Christina, to get a little bit more into that.
As Stephanie was saying, the Jupiter is an aspect of where we get our guides and information, and that's a huge aspect of the planet itself. It's our law and protection, and in that way, when you think about having a host of angels or your guides helping you, this is that aspect where you can see the work being done in your life, where you can honor your values, and then you are protected by enacting, being, embodying your Jupiter. Other than the sun, no planet has greater influence over us than Jupiter. I believe does Jupiter have the moon Dubay? Can somebody verify? Jupiter has moons, a lot of moons, correct?
Yeah, a lot of moons, like a lot. I
I'm
don't
pretty
remember
sure
right off.
Jupiter,
23 moons.
okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if Dubay is Jupiter's moon, that it is the 4%, that 4% of our neutrino imprinting comes from our Jupiter, that is the planet I was speaking to earlier. There's also the four corners in cosmology of existence, the four corners of the Global Consciousness Program. It's said currently that Sirius, Dubay, Alcyone, and Jupiter, I believe, are the four corners. In 1991, Sirius incarnated onto Earth, according to the cosmology of human design. I'm excited for Sirius Joy's going over Sirius the star. They mentioned they're going to do a program for that. But she's currently incarnated on Earth. And yeah, so that's one of the four corners. All four corners will eventually incarnate onto Earth as we move on from Earth as a consciousness. And Jupiter is one of those. It writes our laws for each of us to live by. If you're not following your values again and you're living by your personal laws, you're going to hit your Saturn in your chart. And depending on where your Saturn is, it can be interesting. It shows what is right or wrong for us if we abide by our Jupiter law. So it's very much so tied to Venus, every aspect in your human design chart. And I would assume astrology as well, astrologically speaking, is an aspect of you. So if you're trying to examine your chart and you just look at your Jupiter, it's great to contemplate your Jupiter. But if you really finitely focus on just your Jupiter and you kind of blot out awareness of everything else, you're you're not going to really see your Jupiter, any aspect you're looking at clearly, because all of it plays into who you are as a person. The fortune and luck that comes with Jupiter is beautiful as you start to transition into from your shadow self, from your not self in human design, your shadow self into your gift self. Um, there's a the luck and the synchronicities will pour out. You get to a point where the synchronicities are daily. I'll be texting someone and I'll be listening to TV or a radio show or music, and the word I texted is said in the song, is said on the radio. And that happens a few times daily now. So the more you follow your Jupiter, the more you relax into who you are, the more luck and synchronicities really will start appearing for you. Be actually a challenge not to attach to them, but just observe them. But that is a sign for you that you are following your law. You're following your protection. You're allowing your truth to play out. It's not always, it is absolutely a message that you're in the right place at the right time. And from my personal view, that is what it is. You shouldn't look too much more into it. I know many people probably disagree with me, but the more you detach from those synchronicities and allow the trust in knowing that that's where you are, that you're protected, that you're safe, they're going to be every 5 minutes for you. And it becomes difficult to figure out what they mean if you don't just let them go. But Jupiter is a huge part of luck, not just law. Shelley, do you know what this one is for the step system?
Yeah, so that's can be associated with step 3 and regarding our beliefs and what we're believing in our life.
Mm.
Okay, going on to Saturn. Saturn in astrology has been looked at as our disciplinarian, our responsibilities, our work ethic, and how we draw boundaries. I like to think of Saturn as our personal spiritual alarm system. Saturn is ruled by Capricorn and the 10th house. Yeah, what I mean by the spiritual alarm system, that was something that had come to me like it's probably during my Saturn return, actually. That basically we had this internal alarm system. When it's set correctly, like if someone tries to come into your space, as far as boundaries go, the alarms start going off. But a lot of times people don't remember to set that alarm to draw those boundaries. And you've got people just invading into your personal sacred space. But yeah, so Saturn is really, I think of the rings is like the boundary setting. That's when the alarm goes off, those rings are going. It's ready to cut energy. It's ready to, get people out of your space for you to be your authentic self. So Christina, if you want to go into human design, because it is a little bit different. And yeah.
I absolutely love Stephanie put these particular slides together, and I love what she writes here. You communicate much softer than I do. I'm pretty bold and pushy, which can be taken difficult and can be seen as beautiful. But I love the way you explain this here. In human design, Saturn rules discipline and is considered our internal judge. Saturn governs where and how we deal with the consequences of our actions. I'm going to read that again because that's powerful. Saturn governs where and how we deal with the consequences of our actions. If we break our inner rules governed by Jupiter and Venus, Saturn will deliver internal judgment and punishment. If we don't listen to that, it will also deliver it externally. In other words, follow your authority. That is powerful. And when I first learned about this aspect, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn, I shared it with a couple of my friends and we watched it for a while and we'd watch and tell each other what was going through. It's a fun exercise to do with a small community, with your friends, your close friends, if you know where their Saturns are. It's amazing because you'll see them being out of their integrity and alignment usually before you see your own. And it can be really beneficial to have someone come up beside you and be like, hey, watch out. This is where you're at. But it's a very beautiful planet it's a very beautiful planet in general, but when you are in alignment with your higher self, that judgment actually doesn't just apply to yourself, it applies to your surroundings and the people around you. It protects you. It helps your values. It's almost like the reverse of it. The Saturn then empowers your Jupiter, then empowers your Venus. And yeah, it's a very, very powerful planet. It's probably my favorite planet. I didn't plan on saying it, but I'm somebody who wants to know when they're wrong. I'm somebody who wants to be called out on their bullshit. I'll be doing a show coming up called Beyond the Bullshit. And Saturn is my favorite planet because if I'm out of alignment, if you're out of alignment, your Saturn's going to come in and realign you. And that's beautiful. I feel like it's so beautiful because the quicker you come to your truth, this is the single definition open root manifestor in me, rush, rush, rush. The quicker you get to your truth, the more you get to impact and empower others. And that is probably why I love it. Stephanie, do you know what step number it is?
Kelley.
Shelley, back to that.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
Shelley.
The step astrology here is step 8, so it has to do with commitments and decisions.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Going on to Uranus. Uranus in astrology shows where a person is eccentric and unique. Uranus is about liberation and change. It is ruled by Aquarius and the 11th house. When we're talking about Uranus, it has this sort of a rebellion feel to it. The energy is a little bit of chaos in order to break through, to get to a higher evolution of oneself. I'm an Aquarius, so Uranus is my home planet. But yeah, a lot of times Uranus is misunderstood because there's just chaos and then there's order kind of going back to back. And it's like you have to have a certain amount of chaos in order to have those breakthroughs in life and those, the epiphanies and the deeper understanding. It comes from Uranus. You have that wall, and Uranus is actually what, breaks through it. So anytime you're going through, I guess you would say, a deep learning session, a spiritual learning session in your life, you're going to be looking at Uranus because that's where you're going to be pushing through. That's where the information is trying to come from. So you've got like the 9th house that rules, Sagittarius, and yeah, it's also with Jupiter, but with Uranus, that's where you'll see like where your Jupiter's at, where Uranus is at, and Uranus is where it's going to push through. So that's where how we get that information coming from the 9th house is through our 11th house and Uranus. I'll let you go ahead and talk about the human design because it goes into our Uranus opposition, and I can not hear enough of that. So go ahead.
I don't think people can see the smile on my face right now, but the image I get from Uranus in what you're sharing is you're on a first date and you're realizing all your trauma's coming up, and this other person is just amazing and they're talking to you and you can't get out of your head, and they say something and you just laugh awkwardly. And it's that unusual, weird moment where you have a breakthrough and you're like, oh, this is like, it's not serious. I don't have to be serious. And that unusualness and that difference helps you break through your own issues, your own constraints. Uranus in human design represents unusualness, chaos, and order. Those are all polarities there. Unusualness, chaos, and order. They're like a triangle. During our Uranus opposition is where we shift from our south node to our north node. I did not know that, by the way, until today. I knew it was between 38 and 43. I did not realize it was our Uranus opposition. So that's new information for me. And there are readings in human design that are weather readings. You can have a solar return reading done at the beginning for your birthday each year. And it's basically going to show you a reading for your weather is going to show you the pastries on the tray of life. and you're going to see this. These are your pastries. These are the people you're going to encounter, and this is the environment this is going to happen in. And it is a very, I think, rare, not impossible, but rare happening that you can have. I had a Saturn's return reading years ago, and I was able to identify a pastry on the tray. And in human design, while that is on your path, it is said to follow your inner authority. And there's some controversy between if the weather in particular um, is set in stone, or whether you're actually living your authority if you do not end up doing the decisions and choices that show in your weather. So there's if you, it's said that if you're living what your imprint is, Saturn's return, Uranus opposition, solar return, Chiron's return, that if you're living strictly that you're actually not living your unique self. And some camps say that, and then some camps will say that if you're following that it's actually showing that you're in alignment. So I'll leave that up for you to decide. But Uranus in general, it's this aspect that is very, I want to say watery. I guess it's in Aquarius. I didn't know that ruled by Aquarius. It's very watery. It's very, I think of it as like this image, like the goth chick who also works in politics. Somebody who very much so has this quirky, weird side, but has a very serious, somber business side who can get things done. Your Uranus is kind of your not comfort, but it's the piece in the puzzle that if you only have this aspect of the puzzle and this aspect of the puzzle, and they're not going to touch, it's the puzzle piece that's going to connect them. And it's not going to be normal feeling. It's very beautiful, innovative. It can create optimism in areas you usually don't have optimism, whether you're negative, realistic, too serious. Uranus can bring to light areas of other areas of your chart, other areas of your life for you where you need to refocus in a totally different way. Not just like a new beginning, but it'll show you almost like a different reality, like The Watcher. If you've seen any of the shows with The Watcher or seen the show The Watcher, the aspect that comes out of nowhere and you're like, huh, it'll show you where you can use your guides or angel support to push for that.
You know, they used to say Aquarius was ruled by Saturn and Uranus, both. And I think that's a lot of that has changed over the years. But like the old astrologers, they would say that, you know, Aquarius was ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. And the reason why they used to say that was because if you look at Saturn's rings as they set up our boundaries with the external world, Uranus has rings also, but the rings are like Saturn goes around it, and Uranus kind of goes from top to bottom around it. And it's basically, you know, it shows where we connect to. So we got the Saturn that disconnects us, drawing those lines, and Uranus goes and shows us where we belong, where we connect, and it pulls energy together. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. To look at both of the planets for Aquarius on that one. Shelley, do you know the step number? I believe it's step 4, but I'll check with
Yeah,
you.
you got it. It's step 4. And so it's about where we belong, where we vibe, or, unexpected things can happen, which is that Aquarius flavor. So.
Neptune. Neptune in astrology shows our psychic abilities, spiritual awareness, illusions, and dreams. It rules the sign of Pisces and the 12th house. Neptune, it goes a little bit more deeper than that. I have my Mercury's in the my Mercury's in the 12th house, so it's kind of like trying to get everything explained is a little difficult at times for me. But with Neptune, it is like where we connect to our God consciousness. Basically, it's connecting to our, I want to say higher power. That kind of translates it more to the 9th house. But this is like on a larger scale. It's not just our guides. It's, to our godlike consciousness is how we connect this through Neptune. So yeah, it's very private. It's more, if you look at with Neptune, everything's internal with Neptune. And to be able to communicate it outwardly is sometimes very difficult. Because I believe everybody on the planet has these psychic abilities within them. It's just knowing how to access it and then get it out. The getting it out part is the most difficult part of it. But so how is Neptune in human design, Christina?
Very similar.
Okay.
Neptune in human design is also about spirituality and illusions. Neptune in any gate activation is veiled to its potential consciously for you. Its potential is there, but for you consciously, you may not see it playing out at all. This can deeply disturb the not self, your shadow self, as it is not possible to see through the veil. So Neptune itself, as Stephanie said, is illusion, dreams, and so in my human design chart, I have Neptune in gate 58 in the root center. If you have Neptune in a gate activation that forms a channel, so you have it on either end of that channel, and your centers are defined, that entire aspect there of the two centers in the channel can be veiled by Neptune, meaning you may not have conscious awareness. If you think of like a dot and then a circle around it, this is where your Neptune is. And the further away you get from Neptune, the clearer the information becomes consciously for you in that regards. My Neptune is in my root center, which is not defined, it's undefined. And for me personally, from experience, my Neptune is in 58, which is the gate of the joyous. I have the line of perversion and another line. And from experience, speaking with, if you have the channel of judgment, that's a different subject. You have the entire channel. But this joyousness for me personally, so I'm going to explain through my experience, is that I can't see my joy. When I look back 2 years ago, just times I absolutely was going through traumatic experiences, I can now see and identify the joy alongside of it. How I absolutely had friends and that experiences, even when I was not being supported, that there was joy, and I couldn't see that at the time. So it very much so for me veils from my past to my present. In my present, I can't see where I'm feeling joy. It's very difficult to see for me if that is my activation. So where your Neptune is, if you look back on your life, it's Pandora's box as well, which I'll go into in one sec because that's a big deal. It's a huge deal to know that it's Pandora's box. If you look back on your life and you see where you had those things happening, you're better able to identify it in the present moment. And I get goosebumps and giddy as I say this. It is Pandora's box. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. That may sound ignorant or crazy, but I went into, and I've seen others do this as well, I really challenged that in human design. Human design's basically knowledge saying, don't dig too deep into your Neptune. I said, no, I'm going to dig deep and expose it. And I actually had one of the biggest traumatic experiences of my life happen during that time. It activated what I couldn't see and what I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah,
And
lack of that open root is what really probably did you over with not being able to ground it, that energy. It was just
on a
floating.
whole, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But even if I had a defined root, if I would have gone into my Neptune, it would have caused tension and pulling on other open centers. So exactly, I exploded in my root center. If you have it defined in your chart, this may sound very heavy, and maybe your experience is different than mine, and I'd love to hear that. But the way human design teaches it is that it's Pandora's box. It's good to see hindsight 2020, but don't push too hard on Neptune. Another way you could think of it is a vortex or a black hole. From what I see, black holes suck you in and then spit you out in the white hole in a different area. Energetically speaking, in space, it's not yet known in relation to space and black holes. But the event horizon for your Neptune, you can experience a lot. No, it's not the event horizon. But if you really enter into the gravitational pull of your Neptune, you get sucked through, and it takes some recovery. That may sound, again, very Go on.
Well, if you're looking at in Neptune's how we connect to our God consciousness, we're not physically made to be able to consume a God consciousness within our minds.
Not
It's
yet.
going to,
Not yet.
yeah, it's going to, cause a lot of issues. If you're digging too deep into Neptune, the body has to basically adjust to any higher frequencies, and Neptune is a pretty high frequency, and Pluto goes even further. So we'll get into that in a moment. But Neptune is so far away, but such if you think of wavelengths as far as sound, it's a really high pitch.
If
A
you're
lot of times,
existing in that very high pitch, it can. I felt ecstatic and absolutely joyous, but looked absolutely nuts to everyone else.
yeah. Well, what it does is that high pitch, you can't hear anything beyond that, so you
Yeah.
literally lose touch with reality because you're,
Beautiful.
spiritually in this higher realm. It's and not have. It's like you got to have one foot on the ground. There has to be some grounding there, or you can just get kind of basically lost in space, so to speak, with Neptune.
And as you said on the slides, as Stephanie says on the slides, it can really easily disturb your not self, which is hold on. Those are your lessons in life. It's somebody in Serious Joy group right before we went live asked about the Kundalini awakening, what to do, like how sensitive you become when you first have that eye open. And this is where I would say that comes from, that Kundalini, and to a certain degree, that Kundalini awakening, when you experience it all at once, it's overwhelming, and your not self, your shadow self is experiencing pure love, pure light, pure joy, pure ecstatic existence. And your body is not a container for it. Takes time to be able to
Mhm.
container that. So by the end of your life, you may get a better look going back. And then you add to it, as you said, Stephanie, that it's in the 12th house and it's in Pisces, which just adds to all of that.
And Shelley, do you know the step number for Neptune?
I do, yes. Neptune is the step 7 astrology frequency, however you want to put that. So it has to do with psychic awareness, sensing. And while you both were talking about this, it actually gave me a realization. And I'm looking at my activations here. I have gate 1 in the 5th line on my conscious Neptune.
It's
And
currently
then
transiting, Shelley,
yeah, I
in
have
Mercury.
in my unconscious is gate 43 in the first line. So this is kind of funny. Everything you were just saying, it was clear back, I think in like 1998, 99. I was having the biggest spiritual awakening that I thought there was something wrong with me, literally. Um, I didn't know what to think, but the only way I could describe it to my husband at the time was it was like going through a funnel. And this way before I had ever heard of human design, of course. It was like going through it. And I was literally shown this experience in spirit space or my mind's eye, because it was a literal sensation that was happening. Was I would go through like one end of the funnel, and it was like dark and I couldn't see and I didn't know where I was or what was happening. And then like that narrow little place, it was like I was stretched out, almost like a sensation of, like in Stargate where they're going through the tube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like, but I was all stretched out, like putty, like I would go through it's like when they go,
Iris.
yeah, like going through when they go into warp drive, in Star Trek or whatever, like you're going through this,
Mhm.
shot through this tube and just being stretched out in that process.
You
And then,
don't want to stay there.
yeah, and when I would come out on the other side and I was going through this a lot, like it was like, uh, what is it in Guardians of the Galaxy when they go, when Rocket goes through that series and he goes, no, that's going to do like 100 times or whatever it was, and their eyes were bulging out and everything. So by the time they arrive where they were going to be, then that there's this huge sense of relief. And that's how it felt to me. Like it was outrageous. And it was like I came out into the white void, and almost in a like a open fetal position of like, oh, am I okay? I'm gonna be fine. So yeah, this is very thank you for saying all that, because that brought that awareness of, I mean, on top of the 43 is just that potential total weirdness of
Mhm.
trying to figure what's happening to like what the bleed down the rabbit hole or something. I remember me
Yeah.
trying to describe to my husband what was happening, and the only thing I could call it was the isness, and there was no other explanation. So I still call it the isness. But anyway, yeah, quick little sharing experience, aha moment through my 43, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted, if I can say something or ask something real quick. My Neptune in astrology is the 11th house in Libra, but when we go to the human design on the unconscious, it's 18.3, and on the conscious,
Oh.
it's 18.6, and it's both it's in the spleen. And like, so it looks like nothing happened.
Do you have a defined spleen or an undefined spleen?
Defined.
Okay. And is the channel there with the 58?
No, it doesn't connect. No, it has
Okay.
on the 18, it shows red and black, so.
Okay. So you have similarly to me, in my 58 is the other side of that channel, and is red and black. So that's part of the channel of judgment. I don't remember gate 18's direct name right now. I do know that it teaches, it can be very Siddhic and Buddhic.
Yes,
You
very
have
like the Buddha
you
path.
Yes, and you have the ability at times to have a godlike judgment. And if you're aware of that in hindsight, really don't touch it. But you
My-
have the ability to have grace for others, to know intuitively in the moment, splenic, that your spleen will tell you something, and you won't hear it because it's a Neptune until later.
Mhm.
And you'll look back and you'll be, oh, and you'll know that. And the 18 is a very, I want to say it has such depth, but it absolutely has the light, higher vibrations. And with your Neptune there and the defined spleen, where does the channel to your spleen? Where are the other activations? What other gates?
My other gates, yeah, all the ones on the bottom. So the most 18, I can hardly see this, 28, 32. They're black, but they connect to nothing on the other side.
Okay.
I related to you don't know where my joy is. I have that every time.
Do you
But
have the 44, the top three?
the top three, only 57, which
Okay.
is red, which is red.
Does it make a channel?
No,
Do you have the 44?
no.
Okay, so if your spleen is defined and colored in, there is a channel, meaning there's two gate activations lighting up on each side. Does it connect to your heart center, your root center, your throat, or your identity
Can
center?
you see that?
Can I what?
Can you see it? I just put it up there.
I'm in the
Oh.
If you put it in the group chat, I should be able to.
Christina, it looks like she's got the 3457 channel.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
34. Thank you.
Okay, so you have a huge amount of power and energy. That's that channel, the 5734, is the design of an archetype. A lot of the pressure for you to be that, to manifest that, to generate that as the generator that you are, is that's going to have some Neptune flavor in it because it's connected to that center. Your the 57 is the gate of the gentle. This is a huge thing to know for everyone. The 57 is your left ear, and the 22 in your emotional center is your right ear. So if you're putting the phone to your left ear, you're going to hear better if you have that activation than if you don't have the 22 in your emotional center. So how you hear things and how your gentleness, but the 18 in particular in Neptune, could cause you some emotional distress if people are too pushy, if they're not listening to you in relation to who you are. You know things. You're designed to know things that God knows and be able to articulate it to others and really have the power to, in a masculine, almost yang way, uh, exist with that. And Neptunal app might make that difficult for you to see.
And the 57 is not, and 34, that's not always active because it's it's not always black. So it comes and it goes.
So the design is always active. So,
Oh, okay.
so for example, if you split apart your chart, if you only had the black and you only had the red, some chart generators, my body graph, which you will see when we go over the planets currently in transit, I use that application. It will
Oh,
show you a way to separate your personality and your design. That shows me that your splenic center, if that's your only channel, that your splenic center is unconscious. If you separated the two, which should never be permanent, you are both of those aspects put together all of the time. But your consciousness is going to be what you see in relation to the personality aspect. So some people may have nothing colored in when you separate them. So you're not aware consciously of that splenic intuitive hunch, and you'd really want to be good at being able to hear your gut, your intuitive, no, not just intuitive, but your sacral knowing in relation to that. So
thank
it
you.
wouldn't be conscious for you at all, not just because of Neptune.
Yeah, I can do for my where I have an issue or my current thing is what I believe and feel and see. Nobody else sees, and like if I say something, it's opposite. I just don't say. I just stay in the loving, just be loving, and just be whatever I can enjoy with them, and then because it's just not possible to get them out. Besides which, I
Yeah,
don't know if it's quote true. I don't know, and
it
everybody's on
is.
its
It is.
place.
You know things other people can't see, and that sharing that with them may not actually do you any good at times, even if it's powerful and you know it.
And I'm just trying to use that information that comes through for me. That's where I'm at now.
That's beautiful.
What you said before of how to guide myself. Thank you so much. That was very
You're
helpful.
welcome. Yeah.
All right, and do we know Neptune's step number, Shelley?
7.
Neptune, I was so intent. Oh, yes. I was so intent on it just flew out of my head. Okay, hang on just a second.
Okay.
I have my notes. Hang on.
You said 7, Shelley.
Oh, yes.
Was it
Oh,
7?
goodness gracious. Yes, we already did that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. It's 7, it's sensing and spiritual and psychic energy.
I wrote it down when you said it.
Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna claim Gemini mind here. So.
Now we're going on to Pluto. Pluto in
Ooh.
astrology shows how we use transmutation energy and where we are learning our individual truth. It is about death and rebirth. Pluto is ruled by Scorpio and the 8th house. I'm going to hand this right on over to Christina on this one because they kind of go hand in hand, to be honest. They're kind of talking about the same thing. And I'll let you get started on that. And
Can
then
you mention the 8th house for me real quick? What is the 8th house?
the 8th house, if you wouldn't have asked me, I would have known. Let me try to think.
It's death.
It is death and rebirth.
Death, rebirth, other people's money, and like I forgot there's another one because I have stuff in the 8th house, and I think it's like things that you don't expect, unexpected things that happen.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That clicks so many pieces into me for that. Pluto in human design is also about truth and transformation. I would say if you were going to have one word to describe Pluto, it would be your truth, the truth, your truth, global truth and transits, truth. It is absolutely about transformation, and truth does that. Truth is something that isn't objective truth and subjective truth are totally different. Pluto just is. Pluto is, as Shelley mentioned, the isness. It is. It cannot be disputed, even if it's being disputed. Pluto brings forces from the subconscious to the surface so that you can see them. Pluto's deepest lesson is to find the light in the darkness. Truth can be very disturbing at times, and it can be absolutely liberating if you're prepared for it, even when you're not prepared for it. If you think about somebody in your life, an elder or even somebody younger or a child, perhaps, that would be awful, who has passed on, who has died. And you think about how that impacted you, if you think about one particular person and the truth, the absoluteness that came from their passing and what that brought to light for you, because we all make mistakes and we all look back and go, okay, well, I could have done this differently. I could have done that differently. And then the way in life to not do that again, to heal that, not only forgiving yourself, but then changing what you did in that relationship so you don't do it again, meaning you move forward. So you don't have, it resolves your regret. And that's a metaphor for what Pluto can do. It'll bring to life something you need to know. You may find out you're in an abusive relationship and not know it. You may realize you turned down the man of your dreams because, or projected onto them and ruined a relationship because you weren't in your truth. It can also show you where other people, where they're shining in their truth, as well as where you're shining in your truth. So it's very powerful for you, and it's in relation to your nodes, your nodal cycle. It is the embodiment of truth in relation to that, what the storyline, what the theme of your storyline truth is going to be, and the transformational aspect of that, how you get from birth to death, and what truth your message in life really displays. Shelley, can you share with us the step number?
Yep. The step astrology for this one is step 0. So it's all about being watchful, taking care of yourself. And because it is in that first decan, then it is all about taking care of yourself. I like to view it as creating and maintaining your own personal sacred boundaries and doing what's necessary to take care of yourself. So,
Yeah, one of the things I'm going to add here is Shelley was talking on Neptune as far as, going through this tunnel. The way I kind of look at Pluto is you're going at the beginning of a cave. Everything's dark around you, and you have this like little bitty flashlight trying to make your way through this vast darkness. And there's things that are scary. You hear sounds, but you can't see them. You don't know what they are. And as you keep walking, you're like, you've got your walls up. You're terrified, because you don't know what's going to be on the other side. You just walked into this cave. You got your little flashlight, and you're just making your way, little step by step. And it's embracing all this fear. You've got your walls up, and the step 0 is, I look at it as that's your protection. That's how you protect yourself. And so you're basically you're holding all your energy in, and you're slowly walking through this darkness until you get to the other side. And then you let go and you can actually breathe. And it's like, wow, okay. And it's this transmutation of you. Then you now have this greater sense of self. Because you've held all your energy in together, and you come out and you have more value in yourself. So the transmutation happens in that darkness, but you don't see it until after you're on the other side. So that's kind of how I view Pluto. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Absolutely. And to get to your truth, that's what you have to do. And you want a dream partner, or you want your dream house, you want your dream family, you want your dream job. You absolutely find this cave entrance and you're like, I don't want to go in there, but you know that's on the other side. And you enter that cave. When you get to the other side, it's this oasis of everything you had wanted in relation to that category. And you have to do that over and over again, like a phoenix with your truth, to get to what you want. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more beauty and the more things you've dreamed of manifest into your life. You don't have, you manifest your first dream, like maybe it was kids, and then you manifest a house, and then you manifest a job, and your kids grow up, and it's just, you just keep manifesting. You just keep manifesting if you go through that.
I'm laughing because I have Pluto on the midheaven conjunct Saturn. And so it's a constant, it's in a constant, okay, you're in like a cocoon for however long, I don't know. Then you come out, and that's shorter than the being in it. And then it goes out again. And like, I think Whitaker was saying, it'll be for the next 25 years. I'm like, oh, I think I just go.
So talking about this more, Stephanie, I'm glad that you mentioned even more about that, because now I'm wondering if the process I was going through at that time in my life was a combination of Neptune and Pluto combined.
It sounds like it. I mean, it really, really does. When you were saying that, I was like, it
Yeah.
kind of sounds a little bit like Pluto, as well as like you're going through this spiritual transformation, is what it seemed like to me when you were describing it.
Oh,
And
definitely.
transformation, all in general, you're going to start with that step zero on when
Yeah.
you're manifesting anything. So you may have been,
Protection.
yeah, that protection coming in.
Well, cool. The other element that was there is now Neptune has a 12-year cycle. Is that correct, Christina?
I
That,
don't remember Neptune's cycle. I do not know it.
yeah, I think it's 12 years. And what's fascinating now
I
that we're,
believe it's longer. Oh, years. I thought months first. You're probably right.
yeah, years, I
Well,
think it's 12 years. Somebody can correct us in comments if they need to, but if that is true, that Neptune has a 12-year cycle, it was about 12 years later, I was having an experience, I'm going to have to say another major spiritual shift was I suddenly was shown myself, and this lasted for over a year, where I had the sensation of at first drowning in water.
Mm.
Um, and like I was fighting it, and and then I just kept sinking. I was like, okay, you're not drowning.
Mhm.
Stop thrashing around and fighting whatever is going on at the energy level. And so then I just became still, and I noticed that nothing was wrong, nothing was hurting me. It actually felt comforting. um, and I There was a slight sinking sensation, like I was sinking in deep water, but it wasn't scary. Like I noticed I wasn't scared. However, at the first conscious awareness of this, I was thinking I was that there was something wrong, and I was thinking that I was scared, when in fact that's not what was happening. It was kind of like a womb-like experience. And I can still enter that space when I want to or need to. The fascinating part here is I have gate 64 activated on both conscious and unconscious Pluto, and also my unconscious Mars and my unconscious Uranus. So
you're gonna make me cry.
it makes me cry if I think about it too much, because that's a lot of confusion. But
I've been there.
letting myself be in a space of allowing with that apparent confusion
Mhm.
is the only answer, like what I'm describing. And I'm getting
Silly,
like,
that is absolutely the only way to do it. The
yeah,
64 is you have, I was telling this somebody else, just Stephanie the other day, the 64 is the start codon, the 63 is the end. So when you go through your doubt and then you've learned your cycle, you hit the 64. That's in your Pluto, you said?
conscious and unconscious Pluto,
Oh, geez. So the 64 is
unconscious, unconscious Uranus, unconscious
oh man.
Mars. Yeah. So I have it
Okay. And
activated 4 times.
okay, do you have head center definition?
I do. Yeah.
Do you
But
have the
not a
47?
connection, like
Okay.
my crown is undefined.
Okay, so the 64, I have the 47, and the 64 is part of my Saturn's return. The 64 in general, where you're different. So I'm gonna explain it from my perspective. So when the 64 is in transit and hits my 47 Earth, which is oppression, I'm able to to receive a download. My normal life, I have about 50 to 100 different puzzle pieces, from gaming to yoga to this stuff to relationships to self-studies. You know, you have all these different puzzle pieces, 50 to 100. When the 64 is in transit for me, Shelley, I have a couple thousand piece puzzle that downloads. And to figure out which piece goes where. And that's, I mean, I get goosebumps. That's your life.
Yep, that's my life. You just described me in a nutshell.
And even imagine when I first had my Kundalini awakening, or whatever you call it. I don't like that name, but it was like being on a ship at sea when the 64 went into transit. But before that, when it would hit the moon, 12 hours in the moon, I couldn't move. I had to lay in bed. I mean, if I had work, I was screwed. It wasn't possible. And we are actually going to go over the current transits in relation to human design. And there's a lot, Shelley, that I heard you share in this that is coming to your awareness, and I can see it in the current transits as well.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I on top of this being a 6/3 profile, it's taken literally my entire life to get where I am, with being able to even talk clearly about information that I've been learning over my lifetime. So
yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to articulate all of it. Your life is laying the foundation for years to come, for lifetimes, generations to come.
Yeah, so that's why I try to keep my comments clean and simple. Emojis, sticker comments are perfect for me because I cannot attach words to a lot of what I would say. And if I try to say it, it comes out very strange and weird. And people are like, oh, what is she talking about? And so I do my best to give pictures or emotions. So, and when I'm doing my presentations, I use slides so that I stay on track. And I will still say weird stuff, but not as much.
Yeah. Where is your Mercury at, Kelley? Do you know what sign it's in or house?
Yeah, my Mercury is, I have gate 52 conscious. It's in Cancer at step 7. And then unconscious is gate 51 at step 18 in
I
Aries.
almost swore. Wow.
Oh, wow.
But I will let you ladies go over the transits, because that's
Okay.
I'm in over my head at this point.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and Shelley, if you can share something, if you feel to afterwards, I'm going to go over the transits as of about 11:10, 11:11 today, as they were in the mandala wheel in relation to the human design body graph and where they were in the wheel, so that you all can kind of get a feel for just a taste of the planets in relation to transits. And I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Lamont. She just logged on. She had a busy day. I was hoping to see her. I've known her for a while. It's good to see you, Liz. So the sun. Oh, I do want to add Pluto has a transit, Shelley, of 495 years. So much.
yeah, and Neptune was
longer.
11-year cycle.
Okay. So this is currently our activation for, this is blurry, but it won't be in the other slides. So the splenic center, if you look at the image on the top right, for those of you that may not know, the centers in the body graph, this is a human design body graph inside of the rave mandala on the top right.
Does that help any?
Yeah, this should be, it's not blurry. No, this is the personality activations. If you were born today at this time, about 11:10, this would be your personality imprint. So the design imprint is still, when you generate a human design body graph, this would, if it was in the moment, this would be the personality. And then 88 solar degrees before birth would be that design imprint in your chart. So if you go to the next slide, oh wait, stay here, one sec. So from the top down, the triangle at the top that is white is your head center. Below that is your Ajna center, which is currently defined to your throat center by transit. So below that is your throat center. Underneath your throat center is your G center or identity center. It is your identity, your sense of self, your sense of identity. To the right of that is your heart center, the little triangle, your ego center, your heart center. Bottom right would be your solar plex or your emotional center. If that's defined in your chart, it's your authority. To the left of that is your sacral center. If that's defined in your chart, you're a generator. To the left of that is your splenic center. When we were talking, I believe your name was Catherine, about her activations, this was the center we were talking about. This is the splenic center, the intuitive knowing. And at the bottom of your chart of every chart is the root center. If you hover your mouse over the sun real quick, the sun activation, which I'm having trouble finding. Let me look really
Over
close.
here?
Sorry,
Gate 44.
Yep, there we go. So it's in the 44. Across from that is the Earth. So the Earth is currently in the 24 and the sun is currently in the 43. So anytime your sun Earth is always going to be across from each other like that. As you can see, the sun is in Scorpio. If I get some of the astrological activations wrong, please do correct me. Capricorn, Sagittarius, Virgo, some of them are hard for me to pick out. But the sun activation, as you can see, is in the 44. In one of our earlier live video study group sessions, we talked about the I Ching, which is so you have the symbol of the sun, then you have Scorpio, and then you have the 44 colored in because that's where the sun is. And the very outer ring is the I Ching hexagram chops, which we went over. And each one of these is different. The solid lines are the yang lines, and the chop lines, the ones that are two different lines, are the yin lines. So when we speak to the I Ching, this is how they correlate to the gate that is activated or not activated in transits or in your body graph. So if we go to the sun real quick, it is currently in gate 44 in our splenic center. For those of you that are wondering how this impacts you, the transits are never your knowing, are never your authority, kind of like the weather. So this is an opportunity to figure out weather for yourself. It is the daily imprint. It is what you're experiencing. In astrology, these activations are also in, give me one second, let me see what Shelley said. Thank you. I appreciate that. We've had slides for each of this to show where they're activated. I don't know if it'll work for me, so I'm just going to stick to this. It might be better for next time, though. Thank you, Shelley. So the 44 in the splenic center is in the sun. It's activated, as you can see. So I put in what mybodygraph.com, what their particular software says of the gate and line. And so it goes into what we were teaching about the personality expression of the life force, as well as the gate activation, which is coming to meet the gate of alertness. So right now the sun is lighting up where you can be aware in relation to boundaries, manipulation. Just reading this particular these particular words, fifth line, manipulation, which is where it is in the hexagram chop, the ability to transform interactions with inferior elements into the energizing of progressive process with the additional benefit that in tapping the inferior elements, they remain weak, where the instinctive recognition of the patterns leads to the possible manipulation of others. I actually have the 44 3 times. Manipulation is, when it speaks to manipulation, it is not speaking to the toxic form of manipulation. Absolutely can be used. This can be used in that regard. However, manipulation in general is like manipulating clay, being able to create art form, moving an image around. It very much is, it can be empowering if you're a projector. Most projectors that I've experienced are gifted no matter what at manipulation because they can get into your aura, they see who you are, and they're designed to guide you to your truth. They have to wait for recognition and an invitation in that regard, but they're designed to manipulate so that you are a better person, so that you can see clearer. In relation to energy manipulation, Reiki is a form of this. It's just manipulating of energy. So I want to just really convey that the word manipulation here is positive in a lot of areas. That triangle that you see under where it says fifth line that I just read, that's the yin activation, or the exaltation is what it's called in human design. The detriment is the tendency in this form of manipulation to become abusive and degenerate to their level. The possibility that the instinctive recognition of the patterns could lead to the abuse of others. So that's a lot of information for just the sun. So currently, this is where the sun is activated. If you take it into the context of the splenic center, if you have no splenic definition, or if you have the activation on the other side in the ego center, which is the 26, this will activate a channel for you, and you will be able to have the if you have an open splenic center and you had the 26 per se, you'd feel more grounded, more safe. You'd have, and all of us should have the ability, if we're focused on this area and able to relax into it, looking at our sun, very much so, in not just in relation to global politics, in relation to our communities, in relation to our friendships, in relation to even me expressing this to you right now. There is a flavor. It's like you put the glasses on for this transit, this particular activation, and you can see this going on in the world. And in relation to the weather, especially with this is 70% of our imprinting right now, in relation to the astrology aspect, with like Saturn having just gone direct, we very much so, we just in the past couple of days had this shift from we're gutting this out. Saturn's going to tell us where we can't do this anymore. We're going to see what we need to work on and work on it and be able to overcome it and transform it and transmute it. And Saturn just went direct. In relation to this activation in the sun, we have the potential to be able to see where somebody is teaching you, manipulating you in relation to teaching for the benefit, for growth, where you have the instinctive record, where they or you have the instinctive recognition, oh, I've been here before, I've had this karmic cycle before, I've been in a relationship like this before, or I've never been here before, and I can use new tools and skills to move forward. And so the gate of alertness coming to meet with the sun in this transit, it'll be in this transit for about 7 days. Every transit is around 7 days, so it's a little different, but for those 7 days, you go through lines, the 5 lines of the hexagram, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and you will experience the different frequencies of coming to meet and alertness. And so today we're flavored by the 5th line, which is a projection field. So you may project onto other people that they're manipulative or that they're unhealthy for you, but you're going to be able to see, be alert to who in your life is coming towards you or needs to go, who you need to shut the door on. And that's going to be a big area of awareness, and who is safe for you, because the splenic center is all about safety and survival, who is safe for you, who is not safe for you, and where you can expand and grow with those that are safe for you. If you, Stephanie, do you want to stop for questions on each slide, or do you just want to keep going? Time-wise.
However you want to do it.
Then does anybody have any questions about the transiting sun or how it might apply to you personally? No?
I just have a comment that it connected for me. It connected to the 44, which was blank, that now connects to the 26, and I've been rearranging my pantry.
Do you have ego definition usually? Do you have a defined ego?
No.
Okay, so that's beautiful. So I'd love to touch on that. So for those of you that have that happen in transit, where something activates, especially your heart center, if you have an undefined heart center, you have no set sense of worth. You're absolutely worthy, but you have no set sense of worth. You are not designed to prove yourself. So as you said, you have the energy to go. You said your cabinets, you're going through your cabinets and cleaning.
I did yesterday. Now I'm exhausted.
Yeah. So I love that. So actually, the ego is my only motor. It's the only source of energy I have, and it's a firework. You'll get something done super fast, and then you'll crash. And so the 44 was in transit then as well. So the past couple of days we've had this. So you still have ego heart definition today, and really recognizing when your body says stop and rest, and this allowing you to have temporary, not just awareness, but to have the willpower, because the heart is all about the tribe and is all about will, getting things done. You don't have consistent willpower. You're probably a procrastinator if you have an undefined heart center. I'm a procrastinator with a defined, but it's a very much, you may not have the will, you just have to do things. So the 44 activating the 26, which is the gate of authority, a very powerful voice for the tribe. You very much so. So what you did, yeah, anyone else that has this activated in an undefined ego center, you have the 26, you should have the will, you are able to have the will. And it's not your inner authority, it's not your knowing, but you can use it, those tinted glasses, to your advantage. If you can see that aspect, whether or not you see it consciously, you can use it to your benefit, as well as other people's benefits.
If I may say something else, part of why I was doing that was I'm going to have some eye surgery in a couple of weeks, and I need to get things put where I can reach them because I can't bend up and down, and I can't. There's a lot of stuff in the house that I have not been able to do. So some people from church were going to come help me, and I looked at everything yesterday. I'm like, it's a mess. I don't want. So I started to do it, and now I'm totally tired, and I'm like, I don't think they should even come because I almost did everything anyway, you know.
Yeah, so you got a flavor of what it is to have ego defined for a minute. And that is, and I don't think there's any wrong in you being exhausted. It's for your benefit. It's love of the heart center, the love of in your ego, the love of the heart that you did that. You don't know if they're reliable. I mean, you know they're reliable to show up, but maybe you want it a certain way in relation to the sun transit, the ability to transform interaction with inferior elements into the synergy of progressive process with the additional benefit that in tapping into inferior elements, that they remain weak, where the instinctive recognition of the patterns leads to the possible manipulation of others. I can almost like see you being like, well, I don't know if it's going to get done. I don't know if it's going to get done right. And oh my gosh, I have all the energy right now. Let's just do it.
I just want to have someone that I can hire twice a month. That's all I need. And that's been very hard to find. And so I don't want to really bother them to come in and do something. And then I have to explain it because
Yeah.
yes, don't always have
Well, I
that.
hope you find that. I hope you find that person.
I've been putting that out. I'll just wait. I got done what I
Yeah.
need to do. And then, the right people will show up. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. That was
Thank you,
funny. That
Catherine.
happens a lot. So good to know.
So the Earth in transit is currently in our Ajna center because the channel is activated between the throat and the Ajna. We actually all have Ajna definition right now. The Ajna center is the center of being certain or uncertain. If you have an undefined Ajna center, you're not designed to be certain. Your shadow self, your not self, very much so, can run away with you. And I need to know, I need to be certain. Right now, we have the voice in we'll go over it in a minute, in the throat center of I know or I don't know. And the 24 is the return, the gate of rationalization. This is actually my Mars that I was speaking to. I have the fourth line, the gift horse. So logic and rationalization. The return, the gate of rationalization. So being able to rationalize right now using your logic, using this Ajna definition to your advantage, to see where you may believe something is true, where you're being certain of something for safety or comfort, or maybe you're wrong and maybe you're not right. And that truth can clear the way, can clear the path, can help you reorient yourself. The fifth line of confession. Again, the fifth line is a projection field, meaning that not just projectors, but a projection field. So fifth line individuals with the fifth line in your profile, people aren't ever going to see you clearly. Like I as a manifester or Kelley as a manifester, we have closed and repelling auras. We're never going to know what it's like to be a generator or a manifesting generator with an open enveloping aura. In that regards to the fifth line, that person with the fifth line in their profile is never going to be seen clearly for who they are, because we're always going to see that person with the fifth line profile. We're either going to project on them or them on us, and they're able to actually, if the fifth line being, are actually able to use that to project onto others. And you don't always have to accept that projection. You don't have to accept other people's projections. So the fifth line in this current grounding transit in the Earth is in confession, the courage to admit the mistakes of the past. So right now it's really supportive of you taking time to yourself to be clear or owning your mistakes to others, recognizing where you have made mistakes and where you were certain and maybe you're not certain now. And you don't have to confess to other people. This is very supportive. I actually would say probably this transit would support you really just confessing to yourself and God, as it right now is fifth line. The exaltation or the yin of this is the practical value of starting with a clean slate. We have a clean slate right now, symbolized by the new moon, rational correction that opens a way to new possibilities. So you should be able with this transit to think your way through things if you're calm and grounded and your emotions are not your ruling state of awareness, what is going on through, even if you have solar plex definition, emotional authority. This is a good time to put the glasses on of, okay, well, it's a clean slate. What do I need to do? What is the logic of this? Journaling or thinking your way through it. The yang of this, or the detriment, is the tendency to try and minimize the past mistakes through rationalization. I do that all the time. Turning confession into justification, irrational justification of past mistakes. And so when we go between these two, the show that we'll be doing coming up on the 18th, Beyond the Bullshift, we'll be going over gate activations, gene keys in relation to that gate, and this. And one of the aspects that show is designed for is transcending your body graph, meaning here in this particular transit, this Earth transit, you have the yin and the yang, and those are a swinging pendulum force to go through the practical value of starting with a clean slate, symbolized by the new moon, rational correction that opens the way to new possibility, and the yang, the detriment, the tendency to try and minimize past mistakes through rationalization, turning confession into justification, irrational justification of past mistakes. And they're both required for you to transcend. You're going to, if in your chart, in your activations, you have to really experience both with conscious awareness, including with your design. You can get there consciously with your design in years and with dedication. I'd almost, I don't know the word for it. All I can think of is Nazis have the closed-minded view of eccentric, I don't know the word for it. That's the negative connotation when I bring that particular up, but really just going all in and not stopping. That is a huge part. I mean, that really benefits you in human design, but do not do it too fast. So to transcend your body graph, you're really going to have to get to this point where you've experienced both. And then it's not just walking the middle line. It absolutely is consciously for a few years where you walk this middle line and your activations. But so, and then you transcend when neither of these activations are set for you, that you actually have them in awareness. You become a master. You enter the Siddhic state of what would be the 24, which we'll go over, and beyond the bullshit of each activation, we go over the Siddhic state as well as the gift and the shadow. So the Earth is grounding, and that's a little side tangent to say the Earth, you have the awareness of these glasses, and you may not even be aware that that you're seeing the world this way. And so you have the ability to use this transit to really align yourself to what's correct for you, and then I'll use it to align to the outer world. And that is pulling in the Sun transit, and it is allowing you to ground with your rationalization in that. Are there any questions for that one?
I actually have my Chiron is at gate 24. So I was like, okay, that was interesting.
So you have an ability right now really to get the grounding from that, the ability to see and taste and smell and feel and like experience with touch what your Chiron is teaching you. You're going to want to be really gentle with yourself right now, with your mistakes, with your fears, any nervousness or doubts. You're really going to want to be gentle because right now you're getting a download, a revelation from the Earth of how you can demonstrate in your life with your thoughts will demonstrate right now to you where you have I don't want to take what I know privately about you into this, so
Right.
it'll take
Right.
I'm being very careful not
you.
to do that, but to go forward with, oh, I made a mistake there and I don't need to do that again, and I can heal this, and then ground it in and really make it permanent for you.
Okay.
And so as these transits go through, these are lenses that you can use to see your day.
Hmm.
So the nodal environment applies to the moon. So the moon is actually part of the nodes in human design. This is not that particular aspect of something I'm aware of, but not experienced expert in from watching and living transits. I do know that the North Node and the South Node are basically the, like I said, the stage, like what the storyline for the world right now would be the nodes, and then the moon would be the driving force behind them, and they express the moon. So the North Node is the future direction and environment. Gate 42. If you look at the middle image, you can see the gate 42 is in the sacral center. And it's in the fifth line of self-actualization. The fulfillment, the yin or the exaltation right now is the fulfillment and actualization of purpose as a natural path whose reward is healthy sense of self, rather than power and influence that naturally follow. Growth that is self-fulfilling and naturally leads to influence. The yang or the detriment, self-actualization is as a strictly inner experience that may demand or result in a reclusive nature. Inner growth that empowers reclusiveness. So this transit in the North Node directionally, this tent of glass is long term. So if you look through this, it's almost like foggy. You may not be able to see that clearly, but right now we are self-actualizing. We're able to see we're not just see, but we're able to increase our growth, to up our growth. And it's in the sacral center, which is knowing when enough is enough, having the energy to generate. The generators are the generating life force of the planet because they have sacral definition. And so this activation really gives us the opportunity to generate our self-actualization in order to have an increase in our dreams, an increase in our potentials, an increase in our work, an increase in our momentum, or even slow down our momentum. Our momentum may slow so that we can have an increase. Is there any questions? Let's go to the next slide. South Node. So we're moving away from this environmentally currently. The duration, gate 32, the gate of continuity. Fifth line, flexibility. Easy adaptation to circumstances. The moon exalted, where superficiality is a valuable tool that will masking the inner light from its adaptation to prevailing conditions. An instinct for adaptation in times of change. The yang, the urge to express oneself in direct and often violent rejection of conformity. You can see this globally, both of these. The potential of instinct to reject adaptation and conformity in times of change. So the South Node is what we breathe in, and the North Node is what we breathe out in our chart. And currently it is in the splenic center. This particular gate activation is part of a channel that goes into finance and marketing and the financial aspects in life. The channel from the root center to the splenic center, and then from the 44 in the spleen to the ego, and then from the ego to the throat in the 2144 money line. That's a very powerful circuit in human design. And this particular transit in the South Node is going to influence, not influence, it's going to show us where we need to let go, where we need to adapt. And this particular activation in the 32, people may have huge fears. All the gates in the splenic center are actually gates of fear. They're particular fears. So the flexibility, people may not feel flexible right now. You may notice that not in world power, in what's going on in the world, and then also in our personal circles, people may be afraid they don't have enough money and react out of that fear. Religiously, people may not be willing to conform or may be rebelling and saying you have to conform. These two extremes are going to be very felt right now, and they're actually where we're moving away from. So it took me years to be able to detach from what was the transit and see it clearly, because this, in relation to this, I want to kind of give you this picture of, we're not just breathing this in, directionally, this is what we're leaving behind. And the closer you get to a point where you don't have something anymore, you feel, if you go into feelings of lack and feelings of fear instead of acceptance and love and realizing the potential that's opening because of this change, you want to grasp tighter. And so this is the response people may have, is grasping tighter, where actually where you should be, what you should be using this transit to support you for is your flexibility. Oh, I don't need to grasp that hard. And so you can see this. And this is a huge difference for me between human design and astrology, where in astrology it is what's happening. In human design, it's also what's happening, but human design gives you the awareness, and the alternative is your strategy and authority. And from my perspective, God, Jesus, that's not for everyone. But that's what your strategy and authority, your inner knowing is for, is that this is the weather. This is what you can see. You don't have to do this. You can use it to empower yourself. Do you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. So the moon in transit. Yes.
Oh.
Did you want to say something, Catherine?
Oh, I have my son in gate 32.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What line?
32, 6. I'm a 6-2.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. You're a 6-2. You should, when we're doing the 6-line profile, we go over the 3-part life process. You're going to want to be there.
Oh.
So I wonder what your experience right now, if you're aware of the friction versus flexibility in the world right now, and what you see in relation to that, what you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm very sensitive to energies besides people, but worldwide. Sometimes before something happens, I kind of feel it, even though I don't know what it is. So all this tension, everything that happened in the Middle East, and I'm like, well, I'm like still a peace hippie. And it's like, when will they ever learn? And I'm like, it's very hard to like not even tune into this and just to kind of try to be every day,
Yeah.
And it's that's where I'm at with that. So I don't say things to the people who think, I just don't say anything. And it's just been hard.
Like,
and for myself, I'm like, I don't drive, so I have to have stuff come in, and it's you can only buy a case of something, which is good, but then I have to put it somewhere in this tiny apartment, So it's like, do I need this? Do I not need this? I'm redoing my values at the moment, and I'm like, well, let's go back to when I was 40 and things just flowed. That's where I'm trying to go, or forward.
And that you just said, going back to where I was 40, South Node, past reflection to where things just flowed, 5th line flexibility, that is exactly what's supporting you right now, focusing on the flexibility, what flowed,
exactly,
and evaluating
kind of
the pattern.
That.
Yep, the pattern that the sun transit is revealing right now. You're able to see that and then adjust. That's what that reveals for you, it sounds like.
Oh, okay. I didn't finish the thing. Okay, I see. So I was feeling it, but I didn't say this was going to be forward helping me, that I recognize
it. Will be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So the moon transit, as you see this only has the yin, or the exaltation currently. Gate 31 is in the throat center. It's I don't remember its particular voice. I can't remember if it's Shelley, do you know if this is the voice of I remember? I know it's part of the channel of the Alpha. Do you know the voice for the 31?
I don't know the voice for the 31, but it has to do with leadership and being invited to lead.
Absolutely. So I can share later in the group, if Shelley or Stephanie will remind me, a cheat sheet that shows each gate's voice in the throat center. So this is in gate 31, influence, the gate of influence. So we have throat definition right now. So those of you that don't have throat definition normally have the ability to talk. And it may not be correct for you. It may be very correct for you. So fourth line is an opportunistic line. It's a networking line, as in intent. And this is probably not currently the transit, by the way. The moon moves every 12 hours, so it goes through those 6 lines super fast. So at 11:11 today, this imprinted on us, and we've moved past it. The success of influence based on how it is perceived. So your perception publicly is going to matter. You think about the nodes that I touched on, how you are perceived in relation to those aspects. the public acknowledgement of a nurturing and protective influence, external positive recognition of one's capacity to lead. So if you are in your grounded self right now with this, when the moon was in this transit, while it was passing through the fourth line, this particular yin exaltation activation, you can use that. And again, it's the moon, so it's very quick to see, am I being acknowledged? Am I being seen? Am I nurturing? Am I a protective influence? And then really measuring and weighing where that, like, is it positive recognition for your capacity to lead? If that's part of who you're becoming, the moon will absolutely support you in that. And Shelley has said something about Catherine that you might be experiencing your Uranus return right now, maybe where the sensation of connecting with herself at age 40.
Oh,
Yeah, so the Uranus imprint from your Uranus opposition, you may be experiencing some of that imprinting from your Uranus opposition in relation to being 40 years old back then, and that is coming to light now. So your weather imprint plays out forward.
huh.
So you may be experiencing some of that now.
Hmm.
Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. I get Stephanie and Shelley confused sometimes. I apologize. Mercury, the transit for Mercury is currently in gate 43. This is creating that channel from the ajna to the throat center. Mercury is a fairly fast transit. It's definitely still in the 43 currently though. Third line, expediency. The powerful drive for regeneration that will, when breakthrough is threatened, use any means, align with a force, and endure any condemnation to achieve the goal. A certainty in knowing which can withstand condemnation. The yang, an oversensitive sensitivity to condemnation that may preclude justified expediency and result in failure. Individual insight abandoned in the face of condemnation. So Mercury is going to be communicating. Well, I wouldn't say it's communicating. I'd say you're going to have the ability to look at where you have communicated out of pressure, where you have had to know. This channel is the channel of the genius to freak. It is a very, 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 very good communicator. However, when it comes out, the 43 comes out in the voice of the 23, it will come out in a way that is absolute genius. And to other people, it may not make sense. To other people, they may seem otherworldly. This particular activation, third line, is the martyr, and it's the line of bumping into things. So currently, we're going to be bumping into things that teach us, not just teach us, but show us or threaten us in certain ways, so that we can align to what is correct for us. We really need to watch for our truth right now in relation to our own selves and our inner authority and where we're heading directionally. It'll give us the ability to have more patience, realizing that there's an urgency. This particular transit will provide a sense of urgency, expediency for you, and you could see this picture and be able to communicate it in a way that you haven't before. The 43 is really good for writing poetry, as is the 23. These people can write poetry and communicate their fears, the beautiful things in life, through poetry. So having a medium to express things is really powerful right now. And in relation to the ajna and throat center, again with the certainty and knowing things, you may feel impulsive, you may think you know something and not be sure. So be sure to give yourself some time before you speak up or react if you're feeling pressure there. And this is going to come out in relation to not just communication, but you should be able to, like, you have the flavor to communicate your thoughts right now in a very, very unique way. And everybody has that possibility right now with ajna and throat definition. So if you're somebody who doesn't have those activations, you may experience fear, nervousness. You may be afraid that you can't do these things, and you may want to just run away from things, or you may have the opposite happen where you feel like you have to do something right now. You have to communicate what you're certain of right now. And depending on if you're speaking from your inner truth, your inner knowing, and your strategy and authority, this is a very powerful time that if you spoke something, if you stood up for yourself, if you decided and made a decision in your life and it's correct for you, you very much so are going to have a huge breakthrough. And anyone standing against you, if you have abuse going on in your life, will get out of your way. And the people that support you, that are able to be there for you, will come up alongside you because you're able to really expedite the process to getting to where the tribe, really the individual, not the tribe, where the individual needs to go. So being individual and unique in yourself so that you can empower other people. So that's the Mercury transit currently. Venus currently is in the gate of conflict in the solar plexus. And this is a big one. Our values, this is a big one in relation to people, to us as humans, as a community on a whole. The six is the gate, is the valve to the emotional center. All the other gates in the emotional center, their stream of emotions and their flow come from gate 6, the valve itself. Conflict itself can be very powerful. It can be empowering. If you're coming into it as almost like a debate or a loving conversation of, well, I disagree with you, but let me see your point of view. Conflict can be very, very important. And right now, Venus transiting through this aspect in your solar plex is really here to empower you where you are at odds with yourself, where you're at odds with others, and really confront that and look at that. Diamonds are formed under pressure, under friction. And that's the way they are formed. So giving yourself time to process what's coming in right now, to really allow yourself to sit with the conflict. It's a position of natural and unchallengeable power, is line 4, opportunistic, triumph. So your values right now, you're really able to push through to the other side. When you're you have the power to see through the lens of pushing through to the other side and see where you should push and where you should not, where your emotions are grounded, where they're not. The charity and wisdom that must come with victory and the movement towards new horizons, the power of emotions to dominate a relationship. And then the yang, the conqueror and the purger, the lack of emotional control that is destructive in relationships. So making sure that you're in alignment with where your Venus is in your chart and your inner authority, again, and all of this is the key to this. But you are going to have this ability to see. I want to see where the 6 is in the mandala wheel. Unable to in this particular cross. Let's see if I can find it. I think, apologies, it's in gate 6. There it is. So it's in Virgo. Is the M with the loop, is that Virgo, Stephanie?
Yeah.
That is.
Can't see, it's too small.
Which one?
Is right there. Is that Virgo?
Yes, it's in Virgo.
Thank you, Shelley.
Yep.
The astrology aspects are not my memorization strong point. So really, you have the ability to see through thoughts, and I'm trying to find the words for that. That the Virgo energy in Venus, it's almost like your thoughts are grounding you right now in relation to relationships, and that you have the emotional ability to really push through, to have victory. But to do that, you have to go through the conflict and the friction within yourself and outside of yourself. Venus, the values in the world are really focusing on that right now. Is there any questions for that?
Well, and if I may make a comment,
I felt like you had something to say.
yeah, we're at step 25. So this has to do with things that are going on potentially in the future as well as out in the world. Also, the emotional state, either balanced or imbalanced, can affect our pH in our physical form, where it has to do with what's happening in the physical and what has become. And so we're looking at what's become out in the world and the emotional state. And also, one thing is understanding what's happening in Israel. This has been happening for thousands of years between these peoples. This is not a new storyline. And I'm sure they're feeling stress with the shift between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age. And hopefully they'll get it rounded up and corralled. But this has been going on for a long time. The only reason we're hearing about it is because they happen to be reporting this incident in the news this time, but this has been happening a long, long time. So there's emotional, these emotional imbalances, if we're feeling it in our physical form, can upset or affect the pH balance in our body. So we could go too acidic or too alkaline or whatever, and emotional balance is the key. So
Thank you.
Absolutely, Shelley. Also, gate 6 is if you have asthma, this is where asthma comes from, located in the body, according to Human Design. It if you have struggle with breathing in relation to talking about the pH, Shelley, it also can impact your breathing if you're constraining too tightly. If you're, it'll affect the regulation of your breath as well. Can we go to the next slide? I'm sorry, Shelley, I forgot to ask you for input at the end, and I absolutely felt it for that last one.
no, it's all good. Everything's good.
So for Mars, it's in the gate 1 in the identity center, the G center, the creative, the gate of self-expression. 4th line, aloneness as the medium of creativity. Attention of inner light, the earth exalted as a symbol of personal perspective manifested. Outside of influence, where the potential magic of inspiration is diluted, creativity that must develop outside of influence. Where the potential magic of inspiration is diluted, the need to influence that abandons aloneness and limits creativity. Mars being the childlike planet that it is right now, currently, being able to be aloof and work on what you value is going to be huge for you in regards to self-awareness. Mars is currently transiting, if I can see it here, what zodiac sign it's in. Is that, yeah, so it's Scorpio.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, thank you. So Scorpio, so we're really able to have that boundary energy awareness, as when we should be alone and when we should be around others, as well as it's going to empower us to be able to be creative in relation to our inner world, to who we are. The G center, the identity center, is about environment, and so what your environment, who is in your environment right now, may impact you. And you can put this lens of it being able to see who impacts you, what impacts you, and then where your magic is, where your manifestation is, where you're able to be creative and create new things and the potential of new things and new magic. But it may also be getting diluted, and your inspiration may be coming from sources inside or outside of yourself that aren't truly your creativity and what you want to manifest. And you may be in relation to people pleasing. You may abandon your aloneness, and you won't have the same expression, as if when you're around a family member, a child or a parent, you have the flavor in relation to inspiration, ideas, and who you are alongside how they see you. But if you weren't around that person or focusing on them at all, you'd have a completely different view in relation to family or a friend. A friend is going to see you completely differently in your creation, and you're going to kind of take on how they create and in relation to when you're not around them. So the flavor of creation could get diluted or be changed based on the environment you're in. And Mars transit is expressing this. Shelley, do you have something?
Not really. It's just creative energy. And if you have anything that you've been working on creatively or that you can be doing right now at the, bring it to the conscious level, like pull out your things that you've been working on and see where it can take you right now with this activation, because we're coming from our heart space, and it's also step 15 energy, so it's open and receptive to that flow of creative energy right from source, and see what you can let come through. So yeah, what beauty you can create.
Thank you. Jupiter. Jupiter right now is in which sign? Looking for it on the mandala wheel. I should put my glasses on. That would probably help.
It's kind of small.
It is, yeah. We put that together
Currently,
within the last hour beforehand. So, you know, these were my slides. They're not like they're thrown together really quickly so we could go over this.
Jupiter's in Taurus right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't see that.
I
So the
remember
law of
'cause it's
protection.
on my it's on my Chiron, so I remember that one.
So it's also the same line as or the same gate as the Earth. Yeah, it's on your
Yes,
Chiron.
yes.
So right now, let me just the addict third line, the return, gate of rationalization, the powerful attraction of regressive forms. Sounds a little backwards. The powerful attraction of regressive forms. Addiction and regression. This is the detriment only. Addiction and regression legitimized by success, irrationally maintained and legitimized by success. So Stephanie, this is very powerful for you in your Chiron's return right now. This Jupiter is allowing all of us to really go over where we have, whether we've been codependent, whether we're addicted to someone or something, an activity, a safety mechanism, where that can actually be turned and it can be used both in positive and negative ways. But you have the ability to manifest through this right now, especially in Taurus. The ability to, I don't know how to describe that, to take things and manifest them. So being careful what you want to watch for, what you want to be successful with right now, what you actually want to manifest. For example, if I'm afraid of sharing, or if I'm uncertain if I'm capable, but I have a codependent nature in relation to being certain or to proving myself, I can have the pressure to be successful somewhere and really be certain when it isn't correct for me. And I can be successful in articulating something that could damage myself or others, or may not, you could be successful in an irrational way. It can be positive, but it can also be harmful. And the law and protection in relation to that right now that we are manifesting with that, Jupiter's going to come up and really highlight for us um, the ways of success to move forward in a positive way, and what we like. If you have, I've been addicted to smoothies in the morning, where you have a smoothie that sets the mood for your day, or your coffee in the morning. It can actually take your coffee in the morning as an addiction and turn it into, okay, well, this is a pattern that empowers me. How can I be successful in relation to consuming my coffee time wise? And what does it do for me? And you can take a look and really see how that one particular addiction can drive you forward in a productive and positive way. Shelley?
So I was just looking at Shaitan's book of lines, and the third line is about being indecisive as well in gate 24, and trying to think your way out of things instead of just noticing the cycles of the thoughts and allowing that information to hit when the cycle is complete. So it looks like the temptation here is to try to make a decision from the mind and draw a conclusion rather than just allowing the thoughts to flow. And if we try to think through it, then it's going to cause that experience or sensation of not being able to decide which way to go, instead of just allowing. Yeah, being in a space of allowing. And then, let's see, I think you hit on that it's a net 10, like it's a step 10 astrology frequency for So it is a manifesting thing as well, but Jupiter's in retrograde there as well. So we're reviewing what we're manifesting through the cycles of our thoughts. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Shelley, may I ask you something impulsively?
Okay.
Would you be willing to take over the transits for now? My voice and my body has hit a wall. I can keep going if I need to, but I would really be appreciative if you could go forward from here.
Sure. I'll do my best. I
Thank you.
have the notes here in front of us. So yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So we are on Saturn. So this is the gate 50 that's being activated by Saturn in the transit this today, as of today, and being aware that the transits shift every day. So these activations will change as the days proceed forward. But so gate 55 is the gate of abundance and spirit, and this is the first line of cooperation. So for the yin, or what did you call it? The exaltation, activation, and potential is the expansion of activity through cooperation with powerful forces through principled actions that guaranteed continued support and engender prosperity. The potential to find the spirit through cooperation with powerful forces. So really, really connecting with the divine and allowing yourself to be prosperous and knowing and trusting that you are being taken care of and all is well. The detriment activation potential here is the concentration on harmonic relationships with powerful forces that provide for continuity, but not necessarily advancement. The potential to harmonize with powerful forces, but not necessarily for the benefit of the spirit. So paying attention and being in harmony in relationships. And I would say the number one thing, because this is the gate of spirit, is being in harmony with not only your own soul and spirit, but that of source, that guiding light that is present for all of us. And being prosperous for the right reason, not just for the advancement of the situation, or, oh, this is going to look good out in the world, I know it's going to look amazing, but to focus on the harmony, bringing harmony, and then that prosperity and abundance can come forth naturally. So let me see
Also, this particular transit is my Mercury, the line and the gate, which was something I realized when Stephanie and I put these together, is that Saturn is on my Mercury right now. So everything that you're saying, I just want to echo as well that I think an example of this in real life just happened right now for me in relation to this transit, that I had to give up. I don't have to, but I chose to have you continue. And cooperation with you is a powerful force, allowing for the continuity of the class. That's a very vulnerable share on my part, but knowing that for me, in relation to the exaltation and the detriment right now, that it's not that allowing someone else to expand on this, for you, Shelley, to do this, I can feel that that's right, is I'm going to hit huge walls in relation to impacting others communication wise if I don't trust what I know in relation to that. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. So this is the first line. So we're getting down the foundation of relating to spirit. And I'm referring to Shaitan's book again. So the line that he says in here is relating, being open and available to those of like mind and sentiment. You connect to others on a similar wavelength or seek out company for purely social reasons. So there's a little bit of a caution and a choice there of connecting with other people and versus just connecting with people at the social level. So you want to get down to the foundation of connecting with people that are focusing on similar energies, much like we're doing here in the Serious Joy community, or interested in connecting with the daily energies, but also at the soul level, and with the intention of experiencing joy And this line will help us get down to the foundation of that. Saturn is also in retrograde right now, so we're reviewing the energy of this that we're talking about. And the step astrology here is step 0. So it has to do with ourselves, again, taking care of ourselves and being prosperous within ourselves and creating that nice container and trust of spirit that we're being taken care of and watched over.
Mhm.
And it's Piscean. So yeah, gate 55 is in Pisces. So it's very sensing spirit energy again as well, which probably explains the name of the gate itself, which I never noticed that before. So yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so our next activation is by the planet Uranus. And as we've been talking about, Uranus is all about unusual, unexpected changes and innovating the way that we're experiencing our life or doing things. There's a potential for chaos that can happen. And the gate here that's being activated is gate 23 in the 3rd line. So the 3rd line, this is where things can come apart, come undone, change, shift, be very flexible and movable. And unexpected in and of itself because it's 3rd line. This is the line of individuality, and the gate 23 is all about stabilizing and simplifying any insights and breakthroughs that we might be downloading from the universal flow of energy. And in this case, we would do it in a very individual, independent, expressive way. So we want to make sure that our expressions are not going to cause a problem with our, with other people, making sure that this is like a projector channel inside of this. This is a projected energy as well. So is by sharing by invitation, basically. And the underlying value of that is that when someone's asked you that there's a greater potential they'll value the information you're delivering. And again, following your own type strategy and authority before sharing information. So just because someone asked doesn't mean you have to share it. Make sure you're following your own way of making decisions before sharing those insights and breakthroughs, because sometimes those might be personal and it's not for everybody to hear, but other times it might be something that could, even though it's personal, it could be helpful. So being careful that way. And then the exaltation point here, or potential, is vitality and personal power that can engender jealousy, but not threat. That's interesting, isn't it? Individual expression which attracts attention, but not threat. Vitality and personal power that engender jealousy, but not threat. So some people might not like what you're saying, is what I'm getting from that. And that's okay. So even if someone asks and you share, doesn't mean they're going to like what you're hearing as well. We can't control the reactions or the feelings or points of view from other people when we share. In this case, because it's on the throat center, it would be what expression might shoot back out at us after we share. They might like, oh my goodness, you're a crazy hoot. Or, hey, that sounds super amazing. Can you tell me more? You never know, and you can't control that. And then the detriment potential here is an individual mysteriousness that attracts active suspicion and threat, or the freak. So this is in the channel of genius to freak. So weirdness might spit out. Individual expression that attracts suspicion and threat. So just recognize people might not agree with what you're saying. That's okay. So yeah, all is well. And I like this individual mysteriousness that attracts active suspicion and threat. I think we're seeing a lot of that online right now, especially like on YouTube or whatever. People are going, are you sure that's true? Is that real? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So anyway, I think we're getting a flavor of that. And let me see what the Uranus is in retrograde. We have a lot of the planets in retrograde right now. So we're reviewing the energy of this and standing in good character. And it's step 21. So it has to do with what we're believing, because it's that net 3 frequency. It's has to do with what we're believing about how we feel and what our heart is wishing for well, I guess regarding our insight, you know, what these insights are, what are we sharing, what are we expressing with other people regarding the insights we receive. So
I would also like to touch on one more thing. Can you hear me okay? My headset died. Is there an echo or anything?
Yes, and I just realized I was on gate 32 instead of 23. So let's rescind some of that. Oh my goodness, that was funny. It kind of fell a little off, but I thought I was on the right thing. So let's go back and read.
Well, you were talking about with jealousy and in the engender jealousy, but not a threat. I didn't realize this is, I've been experiencing this all week until you said that, read that. I had not jived. So I wanted to just right now I've been experiencing the ability to look into others' energy and where and I will experience jealousy in relation to different areas, but it's not a threat for me. So for me, it's been almost the reverse of the direction. I've been able to be like, well, I'd really like to be able to do this or be with a friend, hang out with someone, be with someone, and there may be some jealousy. And then the power that comes in, it's not a threat. It's just like acceptance that I don't need to be jealous. It's awareness, and it's the weird unusualness that is like, oh, this is a thing. I can sit with it and it goes away. I process it and it's not a threat. And when jealousy or fear become threatening, you have an immune system response to that. And usually it triggers all kinds of your nervous system, your thought patterns. So your body's able to really experience that, well, I want that. And then be like, not threatened by whether or not that's something you have, you want, somebody else has, somebody else wants. And so it's really the jealousy doesn't have the biting edge it usually does, the envy or even with the willpower, the drive to want something, you're pushed to want something, and you're maybe not fully happy for someone because they have it already. But you're able to really support them now because the jealousy isn't a threat, to really love them and support them if they have something you don't, that you're shooting for.
Or that you personally don't need to feel threatened, even though they're acting that way. It's what they've got going on inside themselves and their belief in this case, because it's the net 3 activation. So I'm also seeing this is in Taurus. So I liked what you said, because this has to do with what's grounding us and what we're manifesting as well. And then we're going to cancel out the mistake that I just made and read the 32 line 3, and I'm going to correct it by reading the 23 and the third line, which is all about expressing uniqueness, which matches better with what we're talking about here, and trusting in yourself while being committed to others, staying true to your own ways, but also noticing how what other people do and say affects you. So like what you're saying, Christina, you can choose to let it affect you or not. And just because someone else is having stuff come up doesn't mean that has anything to do with you. So yeah, perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. All right. And Neptune, let's make sure I get on the correct page here really quick. So it's gate 36 and the third line. So gate 36 is the gate of crisis resolution. And in the human design system, it can be referred to as the darkening of the light, and in the I Ching as well. So this has to do with illusion. Well, Neptune has to do with illusion and spirituality and transcending, I'm going to say in this case, the darkening of the light. So trusting that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, reminds me of what Stephanie was talking about a little while ago when we were talking about Pluto, having your little flashlight out and trusting that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you're heading somewhere that's taking you to the light. So again, it's a third line. So this is transitional line. It's where things will connect and reconnect with the fourth line that comes next. And this says the point at which decline has exhausted its power. And in Shaitan's Book of Lines, it says breaking out, finding the point of transition from darkness to light. You shift from crisis to resolution when you witness emotional habits that don't serve you. So allowing emotions to die away that maybe are not yours or are no longer serving a purpose, because it looks like here, if we allow it to continue, it will have an exhaustive effect on our system if we don't just let it go. The exaltation potential here is the ability to establish a new order out of the ashes of the old, the emotional depth to endure crisis and embrace change. So it kind of has that rising phoenix feel about it. So like gate 36, I always view this as make sure that you listen to your type, strategy, and authority before jumping in, because the gate 36 you just want to jump in. It's kind of like, could be potentially jumping from the frying pan into the fire if you're not careful. So did you have a comment, Catherine?
Oh, no, I'm going,
Oh, okay. All right. So there's a renewal potential of energy or emotional energy here with this exaltation here, and to accept and embrace what's happening. Have a sense of compassion. Richard Rudd in the Gene Keys, the gift, I believe, is it the gift or the city? Is it compassion? I can't remember. I think it's the gift. To embrace that human part of your emotional depth is what the guidance would be here that I'm seeing. And then this potential for detriment here is, and I would say imbalance potential, the tendency in renewal to try to assimilate the remains of the old order into the new with the risk that it might rise against the new order, once it has regained its strengths. The embrace of the change, but with feelings that will not let go of the past. So this would be an imbalance that could occur, meaning you literally could just go up in flames and not recover from that. So it just being open to accept the changes that are going on and release what no longer serves. I mean, if those feelings continue to burn your fingers or your hands, it's like a hot potato. You need to just throw it away and drop it and not try to keep a hold of it. You're going to get a bunch of blisters. So yeah, there we go. Let me see. Neptune again is in retrograde. So we're reviewing this energy, reviewing our feelings, the ones that are this hot potato like feeling, if necessary, and let it go away. But it's different when the potato has cooled down and it's warm, then you can pick it up and your hands feel nice and everything, and it's more comforting, right? The step astrology here, the net is 7, so it's a spiritually oriented. So notice what you're sensing about what you're thinking and feeling about this energy as well. And it's Piscean to boot. So yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, so our next activation is by Pluto. And Pluto, real quick, is again this truth and transformation energy and that deeper Scorpio psychology theme that is present there in Pluto. And then our gate 60 is being activated by Pluto today. And let me get to the correct page here, and it's in the second line. So we're being asked to go with the flow of being decisive and accepting our natural limitations. Now, limitations quite often we view as being a negative thing, but it's not necessarily negative, because and I would say it's absolutely not negative, because if you look at the home or the structure you're in right now, that's protecting you from the elements, it's holding you up, it's supporting you in the foundation of just the building itself, but there's limitations to that building, meaning there's an inside and there's an outside, and there's studs in the wall and nails and flooring and carpeting and all of that. So there's limitations. You know, if you have one of those pergola floors where the connections come together, you're not going to pour a bucket of water out on that floor because it'll expand and cause a mess, right? Because the water will get down underneath and then your floor won't be so nice. Whereas if it's linoleum flooring, you can pour water out on the floor. It's not going to hurt it, and you can mop it up and clean the floor. So there's certain restrictions and limitations, and accepting what those limitations are and working with those limitations. So like you're not going to have, you know, just because we want to have a swimming pool in the basement, well, if the basement's not ready to be a swimming pool, that's just not going to happen. So there's limitations to that. So we could end up with a mess, or we can recognize what those true limitations are and work with them. So the potential exaltation energy here, it says the understanding of the nature of limitation, to accept its restraints when necessary, and thus be able to take advantage of opportunities when they arise. Energy which can adapt to restraint. So again, restraining yourself according to the natural limitations and what is happening in your space and what truly can and cannot happen at that time. And the detriment potential here is an adaptation to restraint that becomes habitual and maintains the nature of the limitation even when it no longer exists. The energy for adaptation that can get stuck without eventual mutation. So this kind of feels like, because it's in that channel of, it's a mutative energy. So even though you've got all of these set ways of like if, for example, if you're going to do a project and you're like, okay, I've got all these pieces lined up, I can actually move forward and do it. I have basically all my ducks lined up in a row. But as you move forward, this is going to mutate, meaning it's going to change. And so some of these things that you viewed as necessary from the outset, you might need to throw something out and bring in a new piece in order to make it work. And so getting stuck in the initial setup can actually cause a problem instead of allowing it to mutate and morph as you move forward. Did that hit on, Christina? It felt like it did to me. So
Absolutely, yes.
okay, all righty. And then I'll go ahead and read the line activation here for the gate 60 is in the second line. It says, finding advantage, knowing when restraints are unnecessarily limiting, you either seize the moment to act or feel hopelessly held back and unable to move freely. So again, this is just being aware of what piece to change out and allow another piece to come in, and keep moving forward. Like, don't let this mutation get you stuck in where you're at. And this is step 28 on our astrology. So it's a net 10. So has to do with what are we manifesting? Are we trusting the time and space that it's taking to make decisions and accordance with how we're feeling? And this is Capricornian energy as well. So it has to do with our decisions and how we're making our decisions. So very cool. I don't know if you Chiron activation, but we can talk about the Chiron even if there's not a slide for Chiron. Did you want to do that? Did you want to do that, Stephanie?
I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, just a sec. Let me get to the right page here. Okay, so this is our Chiron activation, and Chiron is in retrograde right now. So it's gate 51 and the second line. So gate 51 is the gate of arousing, and Chiron has to do with what we're becoming, because it's that step 11 frequency, but it's what we're here to heal up today, like what the energy of what we're healing up and becoming. And loving ourselves, as Mr. Whitaker would say, and love ourselves some more. regarding unexpected wake-up calls in our life, which is the gate 51. It's the gate of arousing. It's thunder above thunder, or thunder above and thunder below, meaning it's a big wake-up call potentially in our life. And it's at the net 7 frequency today. So it's the 16 is the astrology activation. So it's net 7. So again, it just seems like there's a lot of spiritual energy to be aware of, and a lot of wake up calls that we've been talking about for our transit today. And being open and receptive to what our heart wishes through that step 16, but also being aware of spirit and what we're sensing regarding that. And then it's in Aries. Gate 51 is in the sign of Aries. So it's what we're going to take action on. So we want to make sure that we're acting on spirit guidance and being open and receptive to that. So, okay.
Is that the current transit for Chiron?
Yeah, that's today's transit for Chiron. Yep.
Okay. I have the 51 in my north node with the channel and the ego center. So that makes a lot of sense for me. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. And then I'll go ahead and read Shaitan's line description here. It says, surviving, recognizing temporary upsets for what they are as just being temporary. So, and this too shall pass, right? Everything comes around, and if you wait patiently, you transcend shock and apparent defeat. So wait a minute, and it's going to change, is what we're hearing there. So, yeah. Okay. You ready to take over, Christina? Because I don't know what direction you.
We were just going to take any questions at this point that anyone had for Shelley, Stephanie, or I. If you guys have any questions you're curious about, I have not been able to check Facebook comments if there are any there.
I am not noticing any in Facebook, or I'll refresh the page and look again. Hang on just a second.
Okay. And so we wanted to go over today the planets in relation to human design and astrology. And then we threw in the transits so you could get kind of a feel for the planets and how they function in relation to human design transits. If you're not already a subscriber of Serious Joy, if you're not in the Serious Joy Club, it is a great place to receive positive support from other like-minded individuals, the group itself, Serious Joy Club, as well as the Serious Joy subscription service. You've heard us mention the step system today, which is part of the Serious Joy program. And we wanted to educate you, to give you the chance to ask questions about your own planets and get a feel for the differences for those. That was the goal here today. And if you have any questions to any of your chart activations, in relation to the planets and what they hold for you in relation to that planet and where they are in your chart, feel free to ask us or to reach out later in comments if you're watching this later.
Definitely. Yeah. And there weren't any comments on the thread in the group.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. We really our goal is to come alongside and study with you, bringing the knowledge, tools, and education that we personally have, each of us as individuals, in the Human Design Gene Key Study Group. Stephanie, Cassandra, Shelley, and I, we're here to empower you and to learn alongside you. So that is our goal here.
This was wonderful. This was very wonderful. And
Thank
I
you.
see you all put a lot of work into it. Thank you so much.
Definitely. We're grateful to have you here. Okay.
Stephanie?
Okay, I just want to make a quick announcement. We put up our weekly schedule every Sunday. So we have different events going on weekly. One set event that is every Friday at 11. We do have our study group, and Miss Shelley actually hosts that, and she gets that going for us. And I'm not sure, I missed this past Friday. Do you know what the topic is for this coming Friday, Shelley?
Well, I figured since we just talked about the types, what we'll do is the type and strategies, basically, we'll go over authorities. And again, if you know, if there's enough discussion going on and we can't make it through all the authority expressions, the ways of making clear decisions this coming Friday, then we'll split it in half. But we'll go ahead and focus on the authority next, because the three keys of the foundation of the human design system is the type, in conjunction with the strategy, then the authority and the profile. So the next best step, I would say, is talking about our authority decision-making process that's added on top of or next to the strategy and the type. So
Sounds great.
Alrighty.
What we will do, I think next Saturday, we're going to have another planetary. I think we're going to focus in on, I think, the sun and how it goes through all the signs and then all the gates as well for next Saturday. And one thing I honestly forgot from the very beginning is I have created a little workbook. Yeah, I just totally forgot about it. It is in our group, and you can actually download that and use that within as we go through these planets in more detail and take a look at your own chart or any questions that you have while you're going through the little workbook yourself. Feel free to ask us, and we'll answer any questions you've got.
Hey.
Okay. If there's no more questions, we will go ahead and wrap up. It's been a lengthy conversation today on the planets. I knew it was going to be lengthy. It was just the fact of trying to figure out how much to go into, not to go into. And so we're going to be going a whole lot more in depth moving forward as we discuss the planets, though. So.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.